Read the new series, by the way.
Uh, yes, I did. So, hey everyone, Lashaluk here with Party Jams once again to talk about the weekly dose of Shonen chapters.
Hey guys, we're doing this stream again, per usual. Just as a heads up, my schedule may or may not be getting busier in the coming weeks, so things after this might get a little more regular. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. And Tyler, I don't know if you're still here, but if you are,
He said he
welcome to the
was.
stream.
He said he's watching the stream. So welcome, Tyler. And yeah, if you hey Ann Arbor, and yeah, if your schedule does get hectic, we could always just like move it to another day, like when it's not as hectic.
Yeah, that's just what I mean. It might be a little more unpredictable, depending.
Yeah, yeah,
Probably going to get
yeah.
busier.
But my pretty much at this time I'm on any day of the week I'm pretty much open to doing it at any day. So it's not that big of a loss if we don't do it on Sunday.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind then.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, so we have some series to talk about. Some of them are on break, and we also have a new one to discuss. So
yeah.
it'll be an
Uh,
interesting week.
Yeah, so initial thoughts right off the bat. I liked a lot of these chapters. I thought it was a really solid week for most of them.
Yeah, I thought they range from okay to really good. Surprisingly, I think what the weakest chapter for me this week was actually Jujutsu Kaisen, which is weird to say because that's like my number one magazine.
I know.
Um,
I was like that. I was like, what is this like? Is this like an M Night Shyamalan plot twist?
like basically to put it simply, one of the side characters who are having like a fight right now with another side character, as it were. Like the fight was like going on. I figured it would finish up soon, and it did. But the way it finished up was with his ability, which is just like to entrap someone in a pachinko game based off of a rom com manga. And I'm like,
Oh my!
and there was like 3 pages just explaining the mechanics of the pachinko machine. And I'm like, why?
Oh
Why
my!
is there so much lore in Japanese pachinko machines?
Oh my word! But yeah, so yeah, Ann Arbor, it's your favorite dummy. What are you dummy dumb? Like, what is that meant to be?
He said that in our Discord as well.
All right.
When you posted the stream on the Control Chaos Discord,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
he all said, "Oh, hey, it'll be guest starring, not me, everyone's favorite dummy."
Oh, okay. All right. But yeah, I guess we should
I
just
say
talk.
we should start with the new one. If you
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
mind.
we should start with the new one. Vex in Control Chaos said this would be the manga that would either fall really hard or be a genuine surprise. And to me, it was a genuine surprise. I wasn't expected to like it as much as I did.
Yeah, I will agree with that. Hey, Rex. I mean, of course, with the smartphone theme, my first thought was, of course, the smartphone isekai, which is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. But I also know objectively it's not a good series.
Yeah,
But this one seems promising. But at the same time, when I was on Reddit looking at the people's thoughts, like one of the most common comments I saw was like, "Please don't let this be another Earth Child."
well, to be fair, it doesn't seem like it has been because the problem with Earthchild, like we've said, is that it should have just been a one shot, one and
Yeah,
done.
I agree. It really was that. This has more promise, but at the same time, I think based on what we learned, it might be better off being a short series rather than a long
Yeah,
one.
yeah. I would be all right if it was that. If it was like say between Maguchan length or Chainsaw Man length.
Yeah, I mean, because I think the big vibes from this series in comparison would be Death Note, which we'll explore
Yeah,
when we get to it.
yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Like it had a lot of Death Note vibes, except the main character's not a psycho.
Yeah, I will say though, Q, the protagonist, is definitely my kind of main character. So
Yeah,
I'm hoping the series does well because this
yeah,
is the kind of character I like.
yeah, he reminded me of like what if Senku had a brother and was just depressed.
Yeah, effectively, and that's kind of an interesting route to take. I think with the series, especially because it also borrows a new kind of mechanic with the smartphone,
Yeah,
just much like Dr. Stone did with the Medusa. So, like this advanced technology that's come out of nowhere.
yeah. So I guess we should just start talking about the chapter itself.
Yeah,
So
pull it up.
basically, starts off with as typical shonens do, with a narration. Do you know about Google? Whenever you want to know something, it'll find the answer for it. It's a handy search engine. However, this story is not about Google. It's about Googie, if that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, I think I pronounced it as like goo 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 goo. I think that's just how you say it. Goo goo
Oh my god.
goo.
Oh my god, oh my god, I can see a lot of like memes of just like the phone belonging to a baby and it's just going goo 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 goo.
I don't. There's probably a Japanese thing that we don't get here. And hey Rex, I agree that it does have potential. And also thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by, everyone. So yeah, we get the color page which shows the Q, the main character. Oh, what well, I remember her name eventually,
Yuka,
but
I believe.
yeah, Yuka, the childhood friend, and I assume the others behind them are going to be like the main part of the group as well, and
Maybe I
uh,
thought they were just classmates. But
and we
then we
have
have an antagonist in the background. It looks
yeah
like.
we have Chibi Suzu from Ayakashi Triangle in the background there.
Yep, with emo
Yeah,
haircut and
yeah,
makeup,
and we have another
and then
guy
we have
who
basically moves on.
yeah, I assume I'm just gonna say it right off the bat. I assume this is Q. This is gonna be revealed to be Q's brother.
Oh, interesting. I didn't think of that.
Yeah,
That would be a fun, if not somewhat cliche twist, but
it will be a
I'm okay
cliche.
with it.
It'll be a cliche twist, but it makes sense that it's either two ways. Either Q's brother is the one behind the smartphone, or he's this guy.
Could be. I have a feeling you're right, and I don't know who the mangaka or the artist for this series. If
Uh,
anybody knows any series
Kentori,
work, let us know.
the artist Kentoru. I think I've heard that name before. Kentoro Hidano. Kentoru
You can look it up.
he.
I also will say the translator for this series is the same one for Undead and Luck, so there'll be some quality translations to the stories there.
Yeah, let me super smartphone. Kentoru. Yeah, Kentoru Hidano.
You want me to just start talking about the
Yeah,
series while you're doing it?
yeah, if you could. Oh, here we go. I found. Uh, yeah, I thought I heard that name before. Yeah, it was the same artist for that Sega Sega what series that was in Shonen Jump a few years ago.
The what series? How do you spell it?
It was Sega Ziga.
Ziga.
It was basically like a kaiju It was a kaiju series.
Huh. I've
Yeah,
never. Oh yeah, okay. I don't think I've heard of this one.
yeah,
But
but
yeah, it didn't look like it lasted.
but I knew I'd seen the that name before somewhere, and the author's name. Oh yeah, it's the same duo that wrote Sega, so it's the same duo coming back and writing this.
Okay,
So
good for them.
yeah,
I don't know anything about it, but cool.
I knew I'd seen that. I knew I'd seen the artist's name before, but it's like, oh, so it's cool that we've got like returning people coming back and giving it another shot. Let's hope they last in the same way that Michio Sakura's author lasted as well.
Yep. And I guess
Yeah.
Rex comment: do you think he's going to continue solving mysteries, like trying to kidnap or find his brother? Is he going to do? That's a good question, and I think it's definitely a huge talking point about like how he's going to go about using his smartphone.
Yeah,
Because some people suggested that maybe this will eventually turn into a battle series, and then other people, of course, were hoping that it stays more mystery related. I can go either way depending on the execution. And
yeah,
yes, and I also enjoyed the first chapter.
yeah. I could see it going. I could honestly see it being like a mystery battle series. So like on the same vibe as Death Note, it's like a battle, or it's a battle with brains rather than brawn. Because
Yep, and I
if
think that would be nice because I enjoy those kinds of series,
and it
like battle.
already has more character than Earthchild.
It's true though. I'm still reading Earthchild, and I can guarantee that
Yeah, I could see it
I
being like,
could see it being like,
yeah,
oh yeah, I think I can see that, and the only thing will be, of course, the challenges of developing those mysteries, but we can probably get into that a bit later.
yeah, we can. Yeah, we can do. So anyway, starts off with Q in high school, or Sakurada. I think that's how you pronounce his full name. And
Yeah, we'll just call him
he,
Q.
yeah, and
Which, by the way,
basic,
thank you to the author for giving us an easy nickname
yeah,
to call
and
these characters.
yeah, yeah. But let's not hope he doesn't go the James Bond route and have a character with a nickname M.
Oh,
Yeah,
I can see it.
yeah. So Q basically has just like average grades. That's what everyone is getting at here, and they're like, "Oh, you almost failed every subject. You should be, yeah, you're so smart. You used to be so smart, Q. What's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm so bored. I'm gonna fall asleep again." But then Yukiya, his childhood friend, is just like, "Oh, if you don't take his test seriously, the genius brain of yours is gonna rot away." So yeah, you can automatically see like, okay, yeah, basically like gave in light Yagami Senku type vibes. Like this guy, they all know he's a genius, but he's not living up to his potential essentially.
Yeah. And at first, I was not sure where the whole childhood friend coming out of nowhere. I was like hoping this wasn't going to go the cliche route of being a romance interest, but we'll have to see with Yuka's character because it's a
Hmm.
little too early to say. But I do kind of like the explanation that Q gives for why he went about the way he did, because as Yuka points out, you're playing a game where you skate the retest line and getting exactly 60 points. Because as Rex said, 60s are not average; they are just passing, like barely. Um, and he's deliberately not answering some questions. And his explanation is, see, I imposed a rule on myself to get as close to 60 points as possible. And then he added some more restrictions to the game where, oh, I stop the limit, the number of questions I can answer, and figure out the number of points of each question or to get 60. So basically, he's the kind of guy who could get 100 on every single test, but that's just no fun for him. So he made a challenge to get exactly 60 points each time. Of course, that's mentally exhausting. So he's going to go take a nap now.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
I think that this page by itself made me really like Q's character because I
Oh yeah,
enjoy the
definitely.
bored, intelligent characters. Like I'm smart enough to do what I want, but also I don't really want to do anything.
Yeah, definitely. And it's quite interesting when we get to the point of why he's doing is and how it's more of a psychological mental block that he's put on himself.
Yep, and I think that helps add layers to it rather than just make it a gimmick. But that'll come to play when we get to it. I think the
Yeah.
next page I did want to mention that he apparently was a prodigy, has college professor parents, and he goes on. He had like a dream about going to college in America. And I'm, as someone who went to college in America, I don't know why this is this like highest peak that a Japanese student
Yeah,
has.
yeah. It's like we had it with well, Senku didn't go to college in America, but he was chatting with Dr. Sinu, and now we've got Q here dreaming of going to America. It's like we're just as intelligent here in England, Q. Plus, as well, you won't have to worry about rules in every single state. So you've got to abide by.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing, man. Let me tell you, it is hilarious. Like what you can't get away on the federal level, but you can get away in states. It is crazy. Uh, and Ann Arbor agrees. Never go to college in America. Go to Europe. They are cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, Rex as Shikamaru is definitely the vibes I got. I think there's still like having a more modern take on Shikamaru is kind of like what makes Q a little bit more unique, but we'll get into that when we get into those aspects of his character.
Okay, I have no idea what that character is.
What do you mean? Oh, you didn't read Naruto?
Shikamaru. No, I've not read
Yeah,
Naruto.
basically, he is like the high IQ ninja in the series.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
but he's also super duper lazy, and he ends up developing into arguably he has one of like the best character arcs you could say in the series because he was such a background character in the beginning, but he ends up becoming Naruto's right hand man once we get into the events of Boruto. So he's actually ends up like really taking on his intelligence and his gifts and making good use of it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
So
he's a great character.
yeah. Okay. Well, if we're doing like comparisons to other series, I would say the vibe I get from Q as well is Shunsui from Bleach.
Wait, which one was Shunsui?
The one who becomes the head captain in the final arc.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, because he's intelligent, but he's lazy as well.
Yeah, but I don't think. I mean, he was smart, but I don't know if he was like. I don't know if he was genius level smart because that's more like what's his name? Ura. No.
Urahara.
Well, Urahara and like the other one who led his team after Urahara left.
Mayuri.
Mayuri, thanks.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it feels like a Mayuri, but like super lazy and not evil.
Yeah, not evil. Yeah. So, continuing on with the chapter as as Yuka and Q are arguing. We have two students who are like, "Oh, didn't you hear the news yesterday? They said a little girl went missing. It happened near a house, and it was at a place called Adventure Forest Athletics Park." And they're like debating, like, "Oh, whether or not it's a kidnapping or they got lost." And this gets them reminding of Q's brother Shu, who 7 years ago was part of like their trio, but he was the hyperactive one, always asking the questions, like saying, "Oh, big brother, let's go and play on the swings," which turns out was a slide. And you get to see Q being as intelligent as people made him out to be by saying, "You play on it by converting potential energy into kinetic energy." That is a different way to describe how to slide down a slide, but okay.
Yep. And I mean, I think that's kind of more what I meant by a modern take because he's using scientific concepts and he continues to do that throughout the series. So I think that's going to be one of my favorite gimmicks with him because he's basically, if they continue with that, we can have like our closest thing to Senku since Dr. Stone ended.
Yeah, we need a new.
Really loves. I need Q to be the new Senku, basically.
We need a new Senku. We need it badly. Q, you're our only hope.
I mean, kind of, because we really don't have too many other smart characters in magazine. And yes, Ann Arbor, I agree that like a very smart person has like a bit of evil in them. It is kind of funny and true. And then apparently Rex mentions that it's very rare to meet someone who's into manga and hasn't read Naruto. And yeah, Naruto's pretty popular, so it's true.
Yeah. Maybe one day, maybe.
Like one day Luke will get into Naruto and I'll get into One Piece.
Yeah, that's fair. So in the flashback, we have several of the people commenting how Q and Shu are polar opposites, and Shu loves listening to Q's scientific explanations. So basically, he's the Chrome to Q's Senku, basically.
Yeah, except that they're actually blood-related siblings.
Actually, I would say loves listening to, but they go way over his head. So no, I'd say he's more of like a combination of Chrome and Gen.
Okay, I mean, I think with Gen though, Gen was. I mean, at this point, we don't know if Shu ends up becoming our main antagonist or not. But at least at this point, Shu seems like very innocent and kind. So I don't know if I want to go with Gen because he's
No,
also Gen is pretty.
No, when I say Gen, it's like because a lot of the scientific explanations for that Senku explained went over Gen's head.
True, but I think Taiju was playing that role in the beginning of the story. It's just that Inagaki had to write him out real quick.
Yeah, real quick.
And
So,
Rex says Andy from Undead Unluck is pretty smart, but he's no genius. And yeah, I think that's one way to put it. I think Andy is more tactically smart and slash has historical knowledge for how long he's lived, rather than having scientific intelligence.
Yeah, I can.
So I think when I say smart, I mean one of those characters who like knows everything and uses strategy, tactics, and knowledge to win a battle. While Andy definitely is more about hitting things, except in very crazy ways.
Yeah, definitely. So we see Shu going into a building on the pretense that he needs to go to the toilet, and they're waiting for a while, and they're like, oh, he's been in the bathroom for about 10 minutes, and they thought, and they were like thinking logically, as you do when you're that smart, and thinking like, okay, he might have got lost like usual, but even after they continued to search in the night, they still couldn't find him. So yeah, this like mysterious like bathhouse thing, Shu disappears into it, and we don't know where he went. And after the police were called, they couldn't find any traces of him. It's like he vanished. It's like he vanished into thin air, and so the case went unresolved. And because of this was what broke Q, and we see him just burning all like his science books, his genius books, and he's like, oh, always thought science was all knowing. We can scour the planets with satellites in space, and we can see even small particles. But even after figuring out all of that, in reality, we can't even find one child. So I like this about him. Like he has a legitimate motivation for being lazy.
Yeah, and honestly, it's like pretty relatable. Like once you realize that no matter how smart you are, there are just things you're not going to be able to do. And if you're a child, especially with what happened to him, it's almost like, well, then what's the point of being smart? What's the point of applying myself if there's just gonna things like this will happen? It's no different than being an idiot. I will say though, just as a side point, I think the idea of science being all knowing is something that is like a fairly a childish way to view science. I think science in general, while there's a knowledge bank to it, it's more about the process of discovery and learning as much as it is about knowing things. Because science continues to update its own knowledge base. But, that's kind of a side point I just wanted to bring up real quick. Someone in the sciences.
Yeah, because science is always evolving and always changing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm in the medical field myself, and my God, the like different amount of times we'll change and learn things, especially with the current global crisis. It's all been like a learning exercise for us, figuring like what is this? How do we deal with it? And we're doing that in real time, like while this is happening.
Well,
it's stressful.
Well, it's simple. You just get a Medusa.
I mean, man, if only.
If only the Medusas were real.
If they were real, man, like we could honestly have just kept everyone like far enough from each other for like the 2 week thing we started with in the beginning of all this. If we just kept that like petrified for maybe like 2 weeks and unpetrified, this wouldn't have been a problem.
Yeah,
like,
it wouldn't have been.
As people said in the beginning, if we had a magic wand that can keep people just far away from each other for an exact period of time, none of this would have happened.
Yeah,
can't do that.
No,
but
you can't.
We had a Medusa.
Yeah. So we see Shu playing, not Shu. We see Q playing on his Switch before he hears a sound, and he goes to investigate his bag, and it turns out it's what he calls a toy smartphone, and he thinks Yuka had stuck it in there. but it turns out that no, it wasn't. It wasn't her. As the smartphone comes to life itself, and even knows Q's name, and he's thinking like, they must have registered me beforehand. So it's basically a surprise present for me, and he comments on how cruel it is made because it's basically just like a square block, like one of those toy square smartphones that you get at like the dollar/pound store.
Yep. And I also wanted to add before we moved on there, Yuka brings up that she knows how much Q's been through and the trauma he's gone through, but she also wants to help Q get over it. And so I kind of like that aspect. At least as of now, this isn't about like any romantic feelings. It's just about helping a friend through his trauma.
Yeah, kind of like,
I'm hoping it stays that way, but I doubt it.
Yeah, kind of like if it was back in at the beginning of Michiyo's co-family with Tayo and Mutsumi, just Mutsumi being there for Tayo.
Mm-hmm. And I think the second thing to bring up is that since we know that Yuka is probably not the one who did this, at least we don't think so. Whoever like gave the smartphone to Q is going to be another big part of the overall mystery, which I'll be looking forward to. And then Rex says, if his brother was kidnapped and was gone for 7 years, would you want him to have survived and be scarred and have a deal with torture situation for little years, or keep his? Okay. It took me a while to like figure out exactly what you meant there, Rex. Personally, I really enjoy dark stories, so I would rather him be alive and be a very changed person from whatever he's gone. But that's just me and my love of dramatic dark storytelling.
Like what I was saying before, it might turn out that Shu is the main antagonist.
Yep. But we'll see. It's definitely too early to say. Oh, okay. I just opened Twitter, just kind of like retweet our stuff. But I found out that apparently Knox from Project Manga just followed me, so that's cool.
Hey, cool. That's great. That's great. So yeah, we have the smartphone actually talking. So it took the Y-man approach and it started talking. Excuse me, being and saying like, "Hey, I'm not a knockoff. We merely share a resemblance." And he was like, "Oh, you can speak Japanese," and the phone was like, "Yeah, I'm an assistant. I was you using this Google smartphone," and he's like, and he's like, very suspicious about it. He's like, there's no way a toy smartphone like this could operate an AI disadvance, and he thinks like the argument before beginning of Death Note. It's like, oh, this is like some elaborate setup for him, but the phone's like, no, I'm legit here, and it's not a toy. This super smartphone that can search for anything in the world, and it will now prove to him that this is what's good. This is what's going to happen. So the first thing he does, like anyone would do, would be proof of America making contact with aliens.
Yeah, and once again, there was a fun little reference to Roswell. So I guess I don't know if this is like foreshadowing that aliens will be involved later down the line. Again, akin to another science story that we've talked about a lot in our series, or if it's just like a fun little like reference. But I will say once again, why is it like always random stuff in America? Like,
I don't know.
We have to be the first ones to plant aliens.
I don't know. Like could it have been something like, I don't know, are the British royal family lizard people?
That is, I remember that. And I think in Doctor Who, weren't they like were they like vampires or something?
No. Yeah, they were werewolf. Apparently, in the Doctor Who universe, the royal family are werewolves.
I love that. And apparently we have a new Doctor coming up. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I saw that, and I'm very interested to see what he brings to the table.
Yeah, me too. But we should probably get back to the chapter now.
Yeah. So yeah, the smartphone brings up like the confidential information of in 1947, the U.S. state president Harry Truman was the first time. It was the first time in history, and he's like, this does sound convincing, but I think I need more proof of this because that way I can verify it more, and if it's something in handwriting, then I'll start believing you, smartphone. So he says, search for Q's journal entry dated April 15th, 2022. So yeah, we get the confirmation that this series right away takes place in this year, which
Which is nice
yeah,
because
I was
it's less
gonna
confusing than with Doctor Stone, where it started in 2017, but then the manga was 2019 or something.
yeah, the manga was 2019. That's when it
Yeah,
started.
that just
Yeah.
threw off a lot of timelines. But anyway, it did look up Q's diary entry, and what's actually kind of nice is like the entry was about him finding his teacher's social media account and actually like giving positive comments and reactions. And I'm just like, that's kind of a nice thing. I like these subtle nods that Q is like just a nice person who's just trying to make people's lives better, just
Yeah.
like indirectly telling us that.
Also, I would love it if it turns out that the phone does actually search up are actually things that predict the actually do come true, and sort of like predict the future about future events that are going to happen in the series, because that would give very 20th century boys vibes if that happened.
Wait, like look up information that hasn't yet been recorded?
What it was in 20th Century Boys was that the main characters when they were kids created like this whole elaborate superhero and created certain events that it turns out in the future those events actually do come into fruition.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, but it's so they would have been like virus attacks Mars, and then it turns out that a virus does attack a bar called Mars. I think that's how one of them went, like one of the predictions.
Well, I am interested. I'm glad you kind of brought that up because one of the series it's been compared to was Future Diary, which is like a series where characters have their phones give them messages from the future, effectively,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so possibly I don't. But the thing is, and we'll get into this a bit more. I think a lot of this series will be based on what this smartphone can do and what it can't do. Kind of like Death Note, where what the rules of the Death Note are kind of what helped make Death Note really cool, and how Light used those rules for his own purposes. I think that's what this series will rely on too, but uh, the author will have to be conscientious of what the rules are. And I feel like one of the rules are probably that it won't know things that aren't yet recorded. But then
Fair
again,
enough.
we don't know that just yet. So I don't want to rule it out.
Okay, fair enough. Rex, this phone looks up current events so far, not future stuff. Yeah, yeah. But it would be pretty cool if it turns out that some of the things that it does look up are it turns out that no, they're actually true. Like say the conspiracy theory about the aliens. It looks that up, and then it turns out, oh no, wait, this actually did happen.
Oh, okay. So you mean like if they looked up, like, say, um, secret emails between like government officials and then it revealed like some kind of conspiracy they're about to do and then it happens? That
Yeah,
kind of stuff?
yeah, that kind
Uh,
of stuff.
Okay, so basically, I think what Luke means is more like looking up. The phone will find information for things that are about to happen because people communicated it with it in current times, but it hasn't happened. They haven't executed their plan yet, like stopping
Hmm.
a bank heist before it happens. I guess.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I could totally see that.
Yeah. So, and speaking of bank, the last thing that Q asks for the phone to do is basically like, "Hey, where did I drop my money?"
And the
And
phone is like, I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I could, if that money had your name written on it or something else to distinguish it. So Q goes for like more broader ideas, like all the money dropped in this area. Would that work? And it shows a GPS of the entire surrounding area of Q's neighborhood and where all the money here is and everything. And he's like, no way, this is not possible. Like, this is not possible. This is absolute. This smartphone is awesome. All hail the smartphone.
Yep, that's basically what happens, and it's pretty fun. Although I do kind of like how they explained how it works. Well, because like in the next page we see, of course, that like Q asks him, "Hey, how do you work?" And the phone is like, I can't really explain it to you." And then the metaphor the phone uses is, well, hey, if you told a worm on the ground that you can see what items are sold in the vending machine over there, they would be surprised because it's like, wow, how'd you know that without physically touching all the items and knowing that? And that's because, unlike worms, humans can see things with their eyes, which worms don't have. And so much in the same way, the phone has basically a perceptive ability to find human data somehow. And that is kind of the explanation. And you know what? I think that's a satisfying enough explanation where it's
Yeah,
like, because without getting too much into it, because honestly, it's something I still want to research more into. The physics of information is like quite a whole other thing. Like, because there's physical matter and light and data, but there's also like the physics of information and data, which is a bit of a different thing. And I think this is saying this technology so advanced that it can take the data of just human created stuff and then be able to like transmit it in the form of a smartphone.
yeah, and that's something I really like as well. And even more that I like is the idea when we get onto pages 22, 32, and 33, is the idea of the goo points.
Yeah, and that's going to be like important. But right before that, I just want to point out that the two rules apparently we know about the phone right now are its features of world search, which it can look up uh, intentionally made by humanity and its locations, and as well as communicate with any communications device. So those are like the two things this phone can do. It can look for stuff that people have made, and but only things that are on Earth. So there'll probably be a point where things are like off Earth, and that'll be like something the main character won't be able to find. And then it can communicate again, probably limited to Earth as well.
Yeah. So Rex says it comes up with the same error when he asks about his brother and he needs more points. So I figured he'd also need more points to figure out where he comes from. And hello, Danny Theo. Yep, we're just looking at a new series that came out today. So so it's brand new series that you can get caught up on right away if you want to. But
Yeah, first chapter seems promising, Danny. So I think you'll enjoy it.
yeah. So I figured he also needs more points to figure out. Yeah, yeah. I figured that I think that's going to be a points, no pun intended, 2 of the series.
Yeah, because it does seem like the phone is intentionally leaving out information, which is kind of where we get into like what I think you were going into, Luke, with page 33, where they talk about, okay, what happens if I get a bunch of points? And the phone just says, please collect points. And of course, that is ominous as anything I've
Yeah,
read, because
that
like
is a bit.
looking up all this stuff somehow has a point system to it, which so far he only got like 1 point for each thing. Like government secrets are the equivalent of finding loose change. So I don't understand how this point system works right now.
I don't either. But yeah,
But apparently collecting points is important. So that's why I think some people think there might be a battle situation down the line, because another series I've actually been catching back up on, called Battle in 5 Seconds. It also had like one trial where they had phones and collecting points and using those points to fight each other effectively. And in that same way, our character might be spending points for features on the phone, maybe unlocking new features or doing things he normally couldn't or finding information he otherwise couldn't. And I think that'll be like a big part of the story.
Yeah, that would be very interesting to see come to fruition if that's the route the author wants to take it down.
Yep. Anyway, so then Q goes back home and his mom's crying because they're talking about child that got kidnapped, the same ones the students were talking about. And of course, she's remembering her own son gone missing 7 years ago.
Yeah,
And
but I just want to say something. Riko Kawaii, really?
oh,
The name of the girl,
that's a good point. Yeah,
Riko Kawaii, really?
yeah.
That's the name. That's the name you could. That's of all the names you could come up with. That's the one.
It's a one-off character, so why not? Um, so then he asks the phone if, oh, you think you can find her? And phone's like, please, by all means. And so this is where I think we start getting into the how Q can use the phone, because of course they can't just say, okay, find girl. This is where girl is, because of course people aren't byproducts of humans, like arguably. I've had some people talk about the fact that this it might have meant to say that products that humans have created intentionally or something might have been the more accurate translation, but that's neither here nor there. But either way, they
Yeah,
can't find people just by talking into the phone, which is probably good because that'd be creepy. Um, and then she says instead he wants to find the culprit, and he finds the culprit by just giving like certain clues to the phone, like look for cars leaving the crime area. And like he says, it's a good thing that this phone is more efficient than Google, because in Google, if you just type in something, it'll give you results that are relevant and then a bunch of results that mean nothing.
yeah,
So, in a weird way, this phone is like almost more efficient than our actual search engines.
yeah, definitely. Um, and then and then the phone is like giving him pointers like, okay, imagine hypothesizing and decision making are things that I can't do. The authorities lie with my owner, you, and he's just like, and Q's like, okay, my hypothesis for this case is that the girl in question is still alive. Um, and if it was a matter of finding the culprit, then I could let the police handle it on their own. But that girl might be alive, and the clock is ticking on her survival. In which case, the speed that the phone works at is incredibly important. Don't you think? And the phone's like, yeah, of course. So Q's just like, I'm gonna have to do. I'm gonna have to do a match in one of the 61 houses that were suggested for because the phone gave how many cars I'd left from that crime scene, which was 61. So it's like, okay, match with any one of those 61s, and there's no results coming. So Q gets more creative, and he's like, okay, I've got to narrow this down, and he narrows it down to 24, then 18, and it's just like, oh, this is still not enough. I need more things to do. And it's like a day and a half has passed since the crime, and we assume that the girl is still alive, and the culprit's goal is eating uh, ex excrement, and it's a course of actual kidnapping, keeping her confined, covering game info, and then he comes to the realization, wait a minute, clothes, and then he's like, okay, search for children's clothing purchases made yesterday and today amongst the 18 results, and sure enough, only gets one. So he finds the culprit right then and there.
Yep, and Rex, thanks for pointing that out. It's not kawaii, it's kawaii, because there's
Okay.
only one eye. And there is a difference because kawaii means cute and kawaii means scared, fear. So,
Oh, right. Okay, that makes sense for a name now.
yep. Uh, and so the culprit's name is apparently Yuta Kamui. He's a man without children and bought a large amount of children's clothing. And the weird thing is, number one, that sounds like a suspect, but also it kind of makes me think about how, like in our world today, there are ways to probably find out who purchased what, and like people use that for targeted advertisements. It's kind of like both scary and a little more real when they use it like this, because that sounds like
Yeah,
information the phone could actually tie together. Like I think John Oliver actually did like a report on it recently, where you can kind of like use people's information that they don't realize is just kind of out there to tie together stuff about what's going on with them. So this is actually kind of fairly realistic, all things considered,
all
for like a
things
device I can look up.
yeah, yeah, because if I was like if I because here's the thing, if I was this Utah guy's neighbor and I saw him coming back home with a bunch of like children's clothes and he doesn't have kids, I'll be like, yeah, that's not going to raise a few eyebrows.
Yep, and I mean, and the neighbor will play an important part in the story, as we'll see later. Anyway, so then Q gets a smartphone to contact the police anonymously, which I wonder if the police will ever try to track the smartphone, like if he keeps calling them. So,
They
yeah,
probably will. That's probably gonna, like with Death Note, where overusing Death Note got the police's attention. Overusing the smartphone might get the police's attention.
yep. So, I mean, as Rex was asking earlier, if this turns into continuous mystery after mystery, the police might be like, okay, who is this person that seems to know all these crimes? They may have some connection to everything. So, even though in this case, in Kira's case, he actually was killing people off with the death note. But in Q's case, he's just trying to solve crimes. So, they could be like one of those things where people think Q might be a criminal when he's not. So, he could still have to hide from the police. And
Yeah,
then he might have brought, yeah, and you are right. There are other theories, but he's also like the leading suspect just based on the criteria that we had. So you're not wrong. It could be buying clothes as a present for a relative's kid or even a neighbor's kid or something.
yeah. You're
But
right,
given the context,
but in the context of like a kid's just gone kidnapping, this guy's buying clothes for a kid and he doesn't have kids. Yeah, that's gonna.
and his
That,
car was left the scene of the crime within 3 hours, a lot of stuff starts hitting.
yeah. So then we actually cut
Although I
to
do
cut.
hope, sorry, one
Go
more
ahead.
thing. The other reason I brought that up is I hope that in future mysteries, if we do it, they do kind of more specify like why a certain suspect would be more suspicious than another. Because, like Rex said, this is fairly vague enough that there could be other explanations. But if you has to start targeting people, sorry, Q, keep calling you. If Q has to start targeting people, then he's gonna have to like be more picky about like what specific details we need to know about the suspects. But yeah, anyway, police get involved is what happens next. We cut over to the child who's been kidnapped at Kamui's house, and the kid's crying to go home, but for some reason, this Utah is saying, "This is your new home. Hurry and get used to it." And I'm just like, why? I don't understand.
Yeah, but it turns out like the police are already there and they have the house surrounded, and the girl and Q sees the girl being taken home, and he's like, "All right, my job's done here. Time to go home." And the phone has a legitimate question for him: Why did he come out? And he's like, "Oh, I was just worried about the girl, I guess." And this gets him the goo 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 points, and we cut to the next day where everything's all right. Yukta is just like, oh, I'm glad that the kid I'm glad that the girl was fine, and apparently it turns out that this Yuta guy kidnapped the girl because he wanted to make her his child, which is
Yeah, I
kind
don't
of
know what
messed up.
it is. It reminds me of an episode of Family Matters where I think something similar happened. That was a very dark episode. And Rex, it's Shonen Jump, so I just took that as them censoring. Yeah, you know what? A lot of other people also said on Reddit where it's like, okay, he didn't probably kidnap a girl to simply be a family member. And you know what? That might have been the author's original intent, but they might have just disguised it for the final
Yeah,
story just to make it okay for kids reading this manga.
yeah,
But
yeah.
at the same time, I hope if that was the author's intent, there's not too much of that censoring going on because I do want this series to get dark.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, so we have Yukta asking like, "Oh, if they were able to find this kid, then maybe Shu is still alive, and Q's basically dismissing it because it's been 7 years, and he's like, I pulled an all-nighter, so I'm gonna take a nap in the park. And she's like, "You're what? Isn't that slacking a little too much even for you?" I just love that. Like, the one plays like, "Oh, I've pulled an all-nighter, so I'm gonna nap in the park," like, rather than just go home.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that either. It's a good point. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah. So he's talking to the phone in the park, and he's like, "Oh, do you have info from 7 years ago around?" And the phone's like, "Oh, it depends on the type. GP logs, communication logs, security footage. Those types of data most likely wouldn't even exist. They are often deleted once they become too old." So, okay, we have another rule that has another limitation on the phone, that it can't archive stuff, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes sense because it's like if it can look up, like, say, I typed in like a Word document, a secret message, the phone could look it up. But then if I delete it off my computer, then the phone can't look it up anymore, which is interesting because basically this means files that are destroyed are no longer data it can look up. I'm not sure how that applies. I'm not like with written information. I'm not sure if it has to be burnt before it can be
I think it
considered
has to be
destroyed.
burnt. I think it
I
has to
would
be
think,
burnt.
and I think looking up those specific restrictions are what's going to be fun with the series. Um, and I'm looking forward to that if the series survives long enough. But what's
Yeah,
also interesting is when Q, of course, asks about his brother information. It's like, okay, just look up his name. The phone literally gives us nothing. And of course, Q is like, wait, there should be, his name exists. You should have found stuff with his name on it. So how come you aren't showing me anything? And the phone just says, unable to display, please return results. Oh, and I think there's one other thing I wanted to mention to Rex because we got to that part. Because he brought up earlier the error message we saw earlier, comparing to that message. Because in that message, in the first error message we got was 403 forbidden. When he looked up, hey, how do you work? That was 403. But then when he asked about his brother, it was 404. And I feel like those specific error numbers will be important to distinguish what kind of error it is. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up, Rex, just because agree that there might be, maybe getting enough points will help, but I also think the different errors might be different depending on like what kind of things she was asking for. Like maybe stuff
yeah,
related to the phone and the phone's origin are like 403, but information related to Shu, for whatever reason, is 404.
yeah. And the fact that there's no any information on Shu makes me a lot suspicious. Like, Shu is the one behind this.
Yeah, because of course my initial thought was same with cues, where it's like, hey, you don't want to show me shoes information because I'll stop using you. And I'm thinking to myself when I was reading the chapter, it's like, well, that's not necessarily true. You could still use the phone for all kinds of stuff. But if you're right, and Shu is potentially the major antagonist behind all this, it could just be a feature where Shu is protecting his own identity, or the organization behind his theft is protecting that information from Q. So he'll
Yeah,
use the phone, but won't expose them.
yeah. Because it does seem suspicious that Shu just disappears as if he never existed to begin with.
Yeah, which I mean that is something
Yeah.
very scary
Oh,
because then the phone
oh,
goes, "Please collect
oh,
points."
oh. Okay, going into crazy theory here.
Yeah, go for it.
Shu is the phone.
Ah, you were gonna go there too? Yeah, I was thinking about that myself.
Yeah, like this is the AI issue.
I was gonna bring that up at the very end because then he, of course, Q says, "Okay, fine, I'll collect some points." I don't know how he's going to do it, but he will.
Yeah.
But he
So
also, the phone asks for a nickname, and then the phone, and of course, Q's like, "Okay," or sorry, before the nickname, he says, "I'll discover your secrets, the truth behind Shu." And then he gives the phone the name Kimi, which just means you in Japanese. And as Q points out, the phone doesn't seem to like the nickname very much. And he says, you show emotion sometimes. Do you have a sense of self by any chance? And the phone goes, no, not at all.
and then
So
we
that
just
makes
get
it sound like the phone is
mm,
potentially a person.
Yeah, the phone has to be a person. Like I say, Shu, yeah, Shu could still be the main antagonist, but could also be the phone as well. Like that would be because then that would really go into white man territory.
Oh yeah, yeah, it could be because it's both the Medusa and the final antagonist. Oh
Yeah,
man, if this series just like read Doctor Stone is like, oh man, I got to make the next Doctor Stone. I won't even be mad because that's pretty
I won't
great.
be mad. I won't be mad as well. So yeah, we get like the big like setup for future events down the line. Q's going to be using the smartphone like crazy and learning all the secrets, collecting the points, and discovering the truth behind his brother's disappearance. So we get his end goal set up right here,
Yep,
which is nice. Unlike a certain other series,
I don't know which one you mean.
Earthchild.
Oh, okay, that one. That is true. It kept confusing its final goal.
Yeah.
And the Rex, yes, the alien stuff was confidential government documents. Those are preserved for like years.
Yeah, so confidential stuff I don't think would ever get erased unless it was
Unless
like
war happened and we lost a
yeah,
lot of documents.
yeah, yeah. Um a super genius brother goes missing, and 7 years later, crazy tech appears out of nowhere. What if his brother was sent into the future and sends his brother a phone to try and help him escape? Um, Possibly. Like, there's all sorts of like you could just throw anything at the wall about what happens to Shu.
Yep, because at this point we don't know how crazy it'll get. Even when Doctor Stone started, we weren't expecting Wyman.
Yeah, we weren't expecting like parasitic Medusa's AI.
Yeah, we weren't. So honestly, it could still be anything. My only thing with what you suggested, Rex, is if we start having technology sent back from the past by people, then we get into time ghostwriter area, and that's not a good area to be in.
Oh no, no. But yeah, it's just something that we're going to have to be aware on and wait and see. So yeah, that was super smartphone.
Yep,
Very
and I think, sorry, I think
good.
Ayakashi, like it's on a schedule where it's every 3 weeks and then takes a break, right?
Yeah,
That's the name of the
so
schedule. It'll
yeah,
take a
so
break next week. Then I'm
y-
thinking.
yeah, it's going to take a break next week. I've looked it up.
Okay, cool. I was going to talk about that. So, in that case, would you be interested in like continuing this series for a little while? But since we have a breaks in the slot anyway.
Yeah, well, I could definitely see me reading the next chapter and just seeing how it goes from here.
All right, cool. So at least for now, tentatively, we'll have this series on because Black Clover's on hiatus for a while. My Hero wasn't here this week, and Ayakashi kind of alternates. So we have a lot of gaps in our schedule we can fill. So
Yeah,
this might be a good series to fill in that gap. And then, of course, if it starts going downhill, we can always
yeah,
drop
we
it.
could always just be like, yeah, you're out of here. But yeah,
But
since we
for now,
brought
I'm hoping it survives.
yeah, I'm hoping it does survive. But since you brought up Ayakashi, do you want to just get that one out of the way?
Sure. Why not? I mean, we usually do the new ones, but there's no reason to stick to that.
Yeah, there isn't, considering they're not really new anymore. They're like Akani's past the it's Akani. Yeah, it's past the 10 chapter benchmark. So I feel like once you pass 10 chapters, then you're not new anymore.
I mean, yeah, because 10 chapters was about like 10 weeks, which is like almost 3 months.
Yeah.
So, yep. I think in manga terms, people usually use the term U19, like under 20 for being like new, but either way. I think only P6 managed to pass that mark.
Yeah. Oh my
And
god. I
actually, no, Ayashimon is 22, so I guess it did too. So yeah, a lot of our series like are definitely past the point of being considered new series.
yeah. Oh my god. I really wanted U19 to succeed.
Okay, let's see. Ayakashi, where is it? Here it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh
I also
Chapter
love that we get color pages like every week. They're always great.
Yes. Yes. So, and now we've got Chibi Suzu, which you know what the next color page is going to be. We had Shadow Maid last week. We had Chibi Suzu. It's going to be Suzu herself.
Yep. And if it's the main character herself, who is very into certain things. I'm expecting a very quality color page.
Yeah, yeah. Because Rex, if he's still here, Ayakashi is about to get a whole lot more crazy.
So we continue Ayakashi off with the same kind of place we were ending last time, with baby Matsuri meeting baby Suzu effectively.
Yeah, just call them the baby Matsuri and baby Suzu, and Suzu is surrounded by a lot of Ayakashis, and she's like, and Matsuri's like, "Oh, aren't you scared of them?" And she's like, and this is before they're actually friends as well, because this is their first time actually meeting each other.
Yep, which is interesting because Matsuri comes from a family of exorcists, but so I would have figured he'd be more comfortable with Ayakashi, but apparently not.
So he's asking Suzu if she's not scared of them, and she's like, "No, not at all. They are my friends." Before we get a couple of flashbacks from Suzu's perspective, where it seems like someone is shouting at her for being friends with Ayakashis, and telling some subordinates to get her, and the floods around her are her fault. So, do you think all these repressed memories are actually gonna come into play at some point?
I mean, I'm sure they will. They technically already have because they are Shadow May's motivations to destroy humanity. So
Okay.
I feel like Suzu's suppressed memories, that Chibi Suzu, as we will call her for now, is like holding on to, will eventually come to her forefront. That'll be interesting because I think even Matsu's mom brought up, "Hey, prove to me that the Ayakashi medium is on the side of humans." So I think it's
Yeah,
an important story point to deal
yeah,
with.
and yeah. So rather than being uh scared, Matsui being Matsui is just like, "Oh, you are so cool! You are so cool, Kanade or Kanade," and this is the start of the beautiful friendship between the two of them, man. As Matsuri is showing Suzu what looks like Bakugo from My Hero Academia.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah, you're right. I didn't
It's
realize.
it kind of looks
Yeah,
like
you're right.
him.
No, I see it.
Oh my god, it is! It is Bakugo. It's I
This
didn't.
manga kind of does love references.
So wait a minute. So they were reading My Hero Academia when they were small children, and Shirogane was reading Mia Roboco when they're adults. Like, this timeline of Ayakashi Triangle is messed up.
Well, I think also these guys are teenagers, right? They're like what, 16 or something.
Yeah.
So if they're like, if we say they're like 10, I guess it's still possible for my hero to be there when they
Okay,
were
I
kids.
guess.
Because I
I
think the
guess.
thing we forget is my hero's been around for like several years
Oh
now.
yeah, it's been around for 7 years. I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting how long it's actually been.
Yeah. So there are kids who grew up with it who are now young adults or at least late teens.
Wow, that makes me feel more older by the day.
Same, man. Same.
Yeah. I have not read Ayakashi. I would recommend it if you can stomach a lot of ecchi.
Yep. I would too. And so then we see after the My Hero, we also see them playing on the Nintendo DS. So in Super Smartphone, we got the Switch, and here we got the DS. Basically, Shonen Jump loves Nintendo. That's the point.
Yeah. Yeah. There were some Yu-Gi-Oh games on the Nintendo Game Boy back in the day.
Yeah, I remember those. I think. I mean, there's also some on. I played one on the PlayStation Portable with. I think my brother had it, so
Yeah.
it does exist on other consoles. Anyway, so then Monster brings up, "Doesn't your hair bother you if it's that long?" And Suzu's like, "Nope. After all, hair leads to the gods. It's a symbol of life since the old days." And Matsu's like, sometimes you talk like my grandpa, which is kind of funny because she is like, at this point, like an old woman
Yeah,
in like the kid's body.
she's oh yeah. Technically, Suzu is old enough to be Matsui's grandpa's grandmother.
Yeah, probably older than that. There's like 12 incarnations. But yeah.
Yeah.
So then Suzu asks, am I weird? Matsu's like, no, I just thought short hair would also look good on you. And for some reason, that prompted her to get a haircut from her mom.
Yeah,
So, because
but
character
also,
change is accompanied with haircuts in anime. Go ahead.
yeah, but also it prompted Suzu to have the moment where she realizes something's different about Matsuri, because you see like just like the glittering panel behind Suzu, where it's just like, oh, I'm falling in love.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. And then Suzu's apparently response is to repress all the ancestral memories inside like her inner self. And so then we have basically Suzu that we knew came to be after she got a haircut, effectively.
Yeah. So she basically cut her hair was tied directly into one of her personas.
Effectively, yep. Which is a Japanese symbolic thing, I guess. Anyway, so then Matsu's like, "Oh, so you're the reason Suzu doesn't have any of her old memories." And then Mini Suzu's like, "Yeah, but I didn't anticipate she'd grow up to be such a desirous monster in these 10 years." And that is our new term to describe Suzu for YouTube safety policy. Desirous monster.
Desirous monster. And speaking of desirous monsters, we have Shadowmate appearing.
Yep. And this is, I think, what I was saying I wanted to see. Shadow May coming in saying, "Hey, you should team up with me, and if we can work together, we can take over Suzu easily." I think the only difference between what I wanted and what happened is, like, Mini Suzu had like no intention of like betraying Suzu, so she just kind of throwing a temper tantrum more than anything. So we didn't quite get what I wanted, but close enough. I'm
Yeah,
still glad Shadow May played a part in this
yeah,
story, and also she tried to force Chibi Suzu to work with her, but then Matsuri managed to escape pretty easily. That's actually what I find funny about the next couple pages. Like, we again have this huge antagonist who's supposed to be super powerful, but they just play hide and seek with her for a couple. One time they just hide behind a tree and get away from it, and I'm like, how did that work?
And you see the panel of just like with Shadowmay's eyes just like whited out, and just like probably thinking like, how did I fall for that?
Yep. Like, really, how did she fall for that? It is just so funny. But it also is a nice bonding moment between Chibi Suzu and Matsuri. And that's one thing I also find funny about Shadow May. Every time she tries to like break the bond between them, she just makes it stronger by accident.
Yeah. Okay, Shadow May, all you have to do is just let them be. Let them be for a while.
Yep, that might actually work better, because then they escape right afterwards, and Matsuri gives like a touching speech basically to Chibi Suzu, basically saying Suzu is a disastrous monster, a desirous monster, but that just means she's can relieve thousands of years of frustration.
Which I don't blame her if she had thousands of years of frustration of not having any proper romance.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. And then says, but she won't forget her goal. And I think this is the thing I want to talk to you about, Luke, because Matsuri then says, because we can only have a proper relationship once I return to being a boy. And this is kind of repeated again near the end of the chapter. And so I just kind of wanted to say that it feels like the series is really digging down on the relationship won't begin for real till Matsuri is fully a guy again. So I do think that's still where the series is planning on going.
Yeah, even though I would have liked it if they would just be like okay, let's just have the relationship now. Let's not who cares about it not being a proper relationship in their eyes? It's still a proper relationship. You can still have this relationship. No one's gonna care.
I mean, really, I would agree with that, but it doesn't seem to be what the series wants to do because romance series always have to prolong things. I mean, and speaking of which, Blue Box was pretty okay this week.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing that I did like was the last panel.
Yeah, the last panel was nice, but I also did like the moment between Taki and Shinatsu as well. And also, we got some more development with Kyo unexpectedly. They really don't
Yeah,
do much with this character. And back to Ayakashi. Matsuri says you should tells Chibisu you should come out more often, um, so we can spend more time together because you're also part of the Suzu I like, and calls her Kanade. And I think that's a nice touch because the reason he calls her Kanade is because that's what Matsuri called Suzu when they were kids and before they became good friends. Because that's the thing in Japan, calling people by their last names before you're familiar with them. Um, and so with that, we now have a new name for Chibi Suzu, so we can stop calling her that.
yeah,
We can just call
Kanade.
her Kanade.
Yeah, which is just her last name.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still easier than I think trying to find new ways to say tiny Suzu or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we actually cut to the real Suzu. Well, I guess they're both the real Suzu. Like the original, like the normal Suzu. As normal as Suzu can be.
Yeah, the main Suzu.
The main Suzu. Because if there's one thing I wouldn't describe Suzu, it's normal. She is not normal.
Yep, she is. I mean, literally, we see in the next page, she's taking a bath, and it seems to be enjoying herself quite a bit, thinking about Matsuri before Kanade comes in. And Suzu's like, "Oh, you didn't see anything, right?"
Yeah. Little me. Yeah, she's just like, I've got no name for you, so I'm just gonna call you Little Me. Uh,
Yep.
but yeah, we get Kanade saying like, "Oh, you behave carelessly," but Matsuri seems to be fine with it. Of course, they are at this point.
Yeah, at this point. And I also wanted to bring up that, you know, Kanade is kind of a little upset that Suzu ended up becoming a desirous monster over the last 10 years, but she also only really started doing that very recently. It's like only been like maybe the last year or so, maybe, where she
Yeah.
started becoming like this. In
Yeah.
which case, you can kind of just blame Shirogane.
Yeah, you can blame everything always goes back to Shirogane. But yeah, so we have the ending of the chapter where Suzu actually hears what's going on in a mind from Mini Suzu, what from Kanade, and she's like, "Oh, but our surname why?" And then Kanade's like, "Oh, it's a secret."
So now Kanade also has a crush on Matsuri, but it's
Yeah.
okay because she's also Suzu.
So now we've got a love triangle between Suzu's past self, Suzu's child self, past self, her form that she had when she was younger. We've got another love triangle. We've got another love triangle between the Suzus as well. Like it, all these love triangles going around. The series
Suzu loves both male and female Matsuri. So yeah,
the series is just going to become like this whole pentagon of triangles.
yep, a whole myriad of triangles. And I mean, hey, at least it lives up to its name. I still don't know what blue box is supposed to mean. There's no box. I don't know what's blue. I'm still confused about that. I haven't brought it up.
I guess it means. I guess blue box is like, it's like the relationship. They feel like trapped in a box, so they're feeling the blues.
That makes sense. I thought it was a sports thing, but I don't know.
I guess that's what they're going for. But yeah, I'd love to see from that. I now have to see a chapter where Kanade just comes out right in the middle of the school day.
Yeah,
And
and
then,
then of course we're gonna have to be like, oh, this is my little cousin or sister or something.
yeah, and then Lucy's like, is she an alien?
Well, I mean, the thing is with Lucy, I want like one of her friends to be like, Suzu, how do you have so many cousins that just kind of randomly come to our school?
Yes, yeah. And then Lucy's like, Suzu's an alien. It makes so much sense now.
Yeah. Which, now that we finished this little arc of ours, I wonder what's coming up next. Because
Yeah,
I feel like the last two chapters like followed up from like the previous like Suzu time travel. And now that we resolved all that, not sure what's coming next.
yeah, I'm not sure as well. But yeah, Rex, if you're still here, there's a character in this series that doesn't believe in the supernatural, but believes in aliens. Like to an almost obsession degree. She's like one of those conspiracy theorists that you hear about on the internet. Like the aliens are real, they're all around us.
Yep. So
Even
that was
even when there's literal proof of the Ayakashi right in front of her, she still won't believe it.
Yeah, and it's pretty funny. But then that was Ayakashi Triangle, pretty decent chapter to close off that tiny arc we were in. But nothing else really special.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
series do you want to move on to next?
and now Ayakashi's on break, so we can look forward to more stuff later. So I guess which one do you fancy talking about?
Let's see. I mean, in terms of stuff that I want to talk about, I mean, I think Yozakuro is my chapter of the week, but we can save that for later. So
Yeah.
I think one of the bigger chapters I wanted to talk about was either Duran Duran or Undead Unluck.
Okay, so I guess we could do. I want to talk about Duran Duran because I'm really loving the new girl.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think my feelings on this chapter are this was cute and I loved it. I think it didn't reach our top 3 for the week, but it's probably like 4 or 5.
Oh yeah, I would definitely put it there as well. Yeah. So yeah, got it up.
Yep, and like we're saying, this is on 21 chapters in, so that's like almost 5 months. It's almost been half a year with this series.
Yeah.
And who knows how much longer it'll last, but I'm enjoying what we get.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to enjoy it while it lasts because it doesn't look very good for Duran Duran, even though I've personally been enjoying it a lot.
Me too. Although funny enough, like a lot of the comments on Reddit for this chapter were like, "Man, I hope we get Jinchio at some point back."
Yeah,
Because in a weird way, this chapter goes over a lot of our characters, except for her, who's just not here.
Which makes me believe that she is the final villain of this series because it's like the Where's Waldo, Where's Wally, but it's like where's Jinchio?
I thought you were gonna say maybe it proves that she's like the Taiju of this series. She's very important in the first few chapters, but then doesn't show up again till like
No, I would
their equivalents of the Stone Wars.
Actually, I would say she's more like Ichigo's sisters. She plays an important role,
yeah.
a important role of getting the main character his powers, and then it's just like disappears.
Yeah, Ichigo's sisters really didn't get the proper treatment. I would have loved more with them for sure.
Yeah, which is weird. You'd think that that would happen,
right? Because it's the main character's family.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we start the chapter off where we left off last time, where Dora figures out that Naotora is a senior officer, basically the same level as Yuji, and Dora's like, "Oh man, I should have been more respectful to you. I'm so sorry, Miss Kamizumi." And Naotora's like, "No, just call me Naotora. This is awkward." And then Dora's like, "No, I can't do that. Senior officers are awesome."
Yeah.
I like how that's Dora's reasoning. It's not like I have to show proper respect. My mom raised me that way. It's like, no, you guys are awesome. I have to call you by your last name.
Yeah,
and then he really gets depressed.
Natara's really depressed of like, I'm nothing special. It feels distant to be so formal, and Dora's like, all right, fine. If it really bothers you that much, no worries. We'll still call you. We'll still call you Natoro. Anyway, we'll call you Natoro then, if that makes you happy. And Kusunagi's like, Natoro's fine with us, and then she gets hyper fangirl. That's the perfect description for this character. Hyper fangirl mode. And then she's like, actually, Nortan would be even better.
Yep, she really wants to have a cute nickname.
Yeah, she really wants Dora's supernatural energy.
It's too bad he doesn't have any. Anyway, continuing onwards. But anyway, they keep complimenting her and having a good time. And then Yuji just pops up with the popsicle. And I just realized this, but the popsicle in Japan, they have like these little messages. And apparently his sticks is try again.
Try again. Yes, because he's like trying to get close to Dora and Kusanagi, and they're just like, no, we're not going to get close to you. But then they're like really close to Naruto.
And it's funny because now we know Yuji's reasoning is just because that's how he shows respect to Yuji. But Yuji doesn't know that he just wants friends. So it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And he literally goes, geez, they're so close after one patrol. They still call me Mr. Yuji after telling Naotora they'll see him tomorrow. And then Yuji just goes up to Naotora. Apparently they aren't close, so they just call Kamizumi. And then Dora... and then he tells Kamizumi, Dora and Kusanagi are on my team. Don't steal them, okay? And then she immediately gets upset, like, don't talk about them like they're objects. And I'm like, whoa, where did this come from?
Yeah, no, I want to do it. I want to do it how it'll probably be if this series ever wholly on this earth gets an anime. Don't talk about Dora and Kusanagi like they're objects.
That's accurate. And then Yuji goes, I didn't mean it like that. Just stay away, okay?
Yeah.
And she goes, then what do you mean?
And then Jinchio comes in and is like, they were mine to begin with.
Yeah, actually, that's true. Oh, man, that would have been perfect if we saw them arguing over, like, who has them. And then she was like, no, I was the one who had first dibs. Oh, man, that would be great.
Yeah.
Anyway, but everyone else in the building is just like freaked out because this is like two of the strongest people like picking a fight with each other. Basically, in the Bleach equivalents of two captains like getting into a small argument, but getting a little actually mad about
it. It's like if Kenpachi was getting mad with Mayuri because Mayuri's like, I want to experiment on Ichigo, and then Kenpachi's like, no, I want to fight him.
Actually, yeah, no, that is actually exactly what this is.
Yeah.
So continuing onwards, I actually do like this next page specifically because Naotora says, you just want to be admired. You don't care by whom. Is that why you treat people like objects? In a weird way, calling him out. And Yuji even goes, I guess I don't mind who admires me. Does that mean I treat people like objects? When you say it like that, I'm kind of a jerk. Yes. It's like weird because Naotora is like helping Yuji's character development. And I'm like, I didn't expect that. But it's kind of nice. Like, I do like moments like this. And then, of course, Naotora goes away saying, I want to work with Dora. I'm not going to stay away. And she gets embarrassed and runs.
Yeah. And then she's like, I said it.
And then, of course, Yuji's like, but I don't think of them as objects. I like them. So he's like, how can I be friends with him? Because apparently I'm not.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Yeah, so then we cut to 6 a.m. and Naotora is just banging on Dora's dormitory room, and he's like, "Oh, we're going for a morning run." And then we see Dora as like a berserker, going like, "We said 7 in the morning."
Yep, and Naotora like freaked out by that, and I kind of like this moment here because she just couldn't sleep because she was so excited. And decided to just come an hour early. And I've kind of been in that situation where it's like, okay, I'm up way earlier than I need to be. But the next thing I need to do is in a couple hours and I can't go back to sleep. What am I supposed to do now? Can I just get there early? So I've definitely been in this spot before. And then funny enough, Dora's still asleep. He was literally just talking in his sleep. He's so tired from training,
apparently I can relate to that because apparently I talk in my sleep all the time. Apparently I have arguments in my sleep with myself.
You know something? I've been told the same thing by like my college roommate. That was the first time anyone's ever told me I talk in my sleep. And he's like, no, I understood the words you were saying. And I told him to record me one time. I don't think the recording was very good quality, so I couldn't make out any of the words. But yeah, it is kind of creepy when you learn that I talk in my sleep. I didn't know this.
Yeah, yeah. I've just had arguments with myself, like going like, "What are you doing up there? What are you doing up there?"
Like, did your family, like your brother, tell you or something?
They apparently told me that I do talk in my sleep.
See, that's the thing. My family's never told me that, so I'm not sure if I did it as a kid and they just brushed it off, or just didn't realize I was asleep while talking. So I actually wonder why my family's never pointed that out. But
Yeah,
anyway, now Tora is like kind of upset because she made Dora mad. But then Kusanagi comes out saying Dora's not a morning person. He gets super grouchy. Sorry about that. But he's half asleep, so he won't remember any of this. And so this is a good time to tell you that I know you have a crush on him.
yes. Sorry about that, but yeah. And then Naruto is just like being like, probably just has a brain explode at this point by going, "No way!" But then Kusagi's like, "Oh, it's all right. I love Dora too, and I want Dora to be loved. So I'm rooting for you, Naruto. Besides, you're nice." So that is cute from Kusanagi.
Especially the next page, we get the Dora Lovers Alliance formed.
Yes, although with Kusanagi, it's more like pet love, whereas Notara, it's pet love.
Oh, wow, nice,
I love
nice.
how that.
I didn't
I
know
love
that
how
one.
you can make that double meaning. Like Kusanagi, pet love. Notara, I want Dora to be my pet, but I'll love him anyway.
Okay, I was gonna say like based on the next thing she says, I want to get closer to Dora, but I don't want him myself. Like I think we can kind of eliminate any Yandere vibes from her.
Yeah,
So I'm glad at least we got that. She's not like going to be super possessive. She's still kind of stalkerish, but she's not at least like creepy about it.
yeah, and she made some rice balls as well herself.
Oh, and then apparently Kusin. This is an interesting point because I forgot where it was explained, but apparently she made rice balls, and Kusanagi says, "Oh, that's fine, but Dora doesn't like pickled plums." So that'll be important later. I want to talk about that. But moving on to the next page. Oh, actually, right before I get to the next page, I did want to say, like, when I on that Reddit thread I was reading where people were asking, like, "Oh man, hope Junchio comes back." Some people were wondering if Junchio was written out because people didn't like her personality and her attitude, and so the author instead decided to bring in now Tora, who's a little more like, oh, this is like a main female character who's in love with the protagonist, which I mean is what I was hoping Jinchio wouldn't be, and she wasn't, luckily. So I think in my mind, she's. I think the reason I'm okay with now Tora being that role is because I'm hoping that Jinchio will come back and play that role, like when she cuts back, and so
Yeah,
therefore we don't have to worry about a main female heroine who's madly in love with the protagonist. So
yeah, but I like this direction they've gone with Naruto is because yeah, she's in love with Dora, but that's not what she's all about. She has more. There's more to her than just being like, I want. Well, technically she does, but there's more variety into it. It's like she goes through all the emotions.
I guess so. I mean, I do like how she, like you said, she stuck up to Yuji and told him like how to be a better person. And we also know that she had like her own trauma she went through. So yeah, I'm hoping they develop her character more, of course. But that's much further down the line. We're only 20 chapters in. But I did find this next part funny where Dora and her are running, and Dora's like, "We're going at a fast pace. Don't worry if you can't keep up." And I'm like, Dora, she's a samurai officer. She's keeping slowing down for your sake.
Yeah,
She doesn't
with
even get faster until she gets embarrassed and uses like runs slightly faster than him.
yeah, and this is proven when Naruto basically just sonics her way past Dora.
Yep. And so, yeah, Dora, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, oh, if you can't keep up, it's like, come on, Dora, she's way stronger than you at this point. Anyway, so then they give rice balls during a break, and Dora is eating the rice balls. And what's interesting is now Dora is like, "Oh, I'm happy you like them, but that has pickled plums." And Dora says, "It's delicious, thank you." And then she's like, "Oh, but he hates pickled plums." And so one, I was wondering where that came up. Apparently Kusanagi is the one who said it. But it's also kind of nice, like characterization for Dora that he will eat and with a smile on his face, um, even for food he doesn't like. It
Yeah,
just kind of helps emphasize that Dora's like a really good guy.
yeah, because yeah, because you can see his face kind of clenching as well when he eats it. So it's more like he's going like, "It's delicious, thank you, Naruto."
Yep, and I think now Dora appreciated that.
Yeah. Um.
And then we
So,
cut over to the
yeah, go ahead.
okay, and then we cut over to the dojo where Team Yuji is training, and then Yuji's like, or sorry, Dora's like, Naruto wants to train with us today, and she's like, thanks for letting me join. And Toda's totally into it because he gets to train with another officer, uh, and then Yuji's like, shouldn't you be looking after your own team? And now Tora's like, my other teammates are on an assignment right now, so they're good. And I'm just like, that's a good point. Who are her teammates?
Yeah,
We
which
need to like
it,
learn that.
yeah, which she probably just made that up. She probably made that up as an excuse just to be with Dora.
I mean, it could be, but it also could be like a story point later. Like her teammates might come back from a mission, and then she'll be like, and then they'll be all beat up or something because of some Mononoke. She'll be like, "Oh man, I should have gone with them. This is all my fault" or something. I could see
Yeah,
that.
possibly. So then we have them all training together, and Dora's thanking her for the training that she's doing, and all thanks going around to Naruto, and even Yuji is like, "No, I shouldn't be annoyed. I should be thanking Kamasumi for helping my team grow." And he reluctantly, with a grin on his face, it's just like, "Thank you, Kamasumi." It's like, sure. I
And
just
in a funny way, that is, oh, good.
I'm loving their dynamic so far.
Oh yeah, yeah. The character dynamics are great. I think that's what this chapter really shows us. I'm glad we got to slow down and really explore these character dynamics. But also, I like how in some ways this is Yuji starting his character arc because he's like, I'm trying to be a better person here.
Yeah, you got a
So
long way to go, Yuji, because I
yeah,
reckon I reckon his idea of a present for Dora would just be something with D on it.
I I don't know. That's a good
Like
question.
like he probably like, oh, Dora's name begins with D. Okay, here's a mug with a D on it, or like he thinks that because his name is Dora, he likes doors, so he just gets like a door, just a door out of nowhere. And
That could
Dora's
be
like,
kind of funny that him we just bring in like a really bad gift, and then
yeah.
Dora has to be like, "Oh, thanks,
Yeah.
boss."
And Dora's like, what am I to do about this? And you're just like, well, your name's Dora, so I thought you'd like a door as a gift.
The well, yeah, actually, that would be kind of funny. But we'll putting that aside for a second. Apparently, they now Tora and Dora, they go out like on a walk, I guess, after training, and Dora thanks her again for all the advice, and apparently they're eating. Are they eating
Uh,
dumplings?
uh,
And
yeah, dumplings.
yeah, dumplings that Yuji apparently bought them, as we learned. I think Yuji just bought them dumplings to try to win them over. This is like
Yeah.
again his way of trying to be a better person. Anyway, so then now Tora is flattered by the compliment, but then she also senses that somebody's nearby, but doesn't see them. And we see that, of course, again, now Tora makes plans to go training with them again tomorrow. And meanwhile, there is someone hiding behind a tree saying, why is there always a samurai officer with Sasaki and Kusanagi? It might be a while before I can carry out my mission. So basically, this is the one of those traders that we saw in the, I'm not sure if it was the last chapter or the chapter before, but in that chapter, we know that there's somebody working with the Mononoke who's after Dora. And apparently, the reason they haven't done anything yet is because there's always some samurai officer near him.
Yeah, which I'm still like, I would love it, but I'd also be worried if it was Jinchio.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but then I don't know. Actually, did she call Dora by his last name?
I don't remember. That's how long she's been out of the series.
Yeah, that's true because that would be like telling if it was, but we don't know because we don't remember. Anyway, so moving onward, we get to a shrine, roughly. I don't know these Japanese locations, but basically some Mount Raison. There's like a shrine where you can summon Mononoke. It seems because we see like this weird elephant-looking
I was
Mononoke. I
gonna
think that's
say it looks like an elephant.
yeah. So we have an elephant Mononoke come in saying, "Oh, this is the human world." And then Kanbei contacts him and says, "You finally arrived, Dosan." And the elephant, interestingly, says, "Well, I had to see my children." Interesting that Dosan says specifically children. I wonder if that means that he's an older Mononoke, or and also if Mononoke have like kids. I didn't think of that before,
Possibly,
but they might have
possibly,
like families. That'd be
yeah.
kind of interesting.
Because it seems like there's like parallels between the Mononoke world and the human world.
Yeah. So, but I think there's going to be more lore with this one. I hope because the last couple Mononoke we have were treated like fodder. So I'm hoping these can put up more of a fight.
Yeah,
Anyway, so Dosan like also sees the person who summoned him say, "Go ahead, raise as much chaos as you like." And Dosan's comments, "What a strange person. He's human, so why would he bring a Mononoke here?" And then we
mm,
get someone with bandages wrapped around their face. That's where
yeah,
the chapter ends. So we have a new
yeah.
human trader who I think is
Human,
separate from the one stalking Dora,
yeah.
which begs the question of why are all these humans like siding with Mononoke? Like, what is their
I
goal?
think I think their motivation might be like they realize that the war between Mononoke and humans is going to go in the Mononoke's favor, so they're trying to save their skin by switching sides.
That would be one way to go about it. Um, I was, I'm kind of hoping that it's not just like a bunch of humans who have just grown tired of humanity or something, because that feels a little too cliche for my taste. I don't mind those kind of tropes because the Jujutsu
Well, no,
Kaisen's used them pretty well.
not exactly tired of humanity. Just them knowing that it's pointless because the Mononoke are going to win in the end.
Oh yeah, that's your interpretation. That's a pretty good one. But I was saying what I hope it doesn't is just a
Okay.
hatred of humanity out of some spite or something. Because I think I've seen enough of that for a little bit myself.
Yeah, yeah, that would be a bit too cliched.
Yeah, I mean, again, if they can execute it well, it's fine. But I'm hoping it's something more complex and deep. Maybe there's like something about the Mononoke that they know about that like we were thinking the organization might be keeping some secrets about Mononoke, and these humans are aware of it, and that's why they're helping. So that's kind of the direction I'm hoping it goes in.
Yeah, yeah. But it's something we're just gonna have to wait and see if it if it survives any longer.
Yep. And yeah, that's Duran Duran.
Yeah.
So, what series should we talk about next then?
I guess since you brought up Undead Unluck, we could talk about that because you were very mixed on it, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah, I was. Because there's like good stuff here, and then some people explain some stuff which clarified things, but also stuff I'm like not too big on. But I don't know. It's Undead Unluck. I'm always mixed on this series.
Yeah,
I
you
think
are.
it's in general a positive series, but it's definitely not among my personal favorites.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I most look forward to is just like the back and forth between One Smart and you trying to discuss is Undead Unluck a good series or not.
Yeah, I mean, One Smart and I didn't really have much with Undead Unluck. We just both agreed Jujutsu Kaisen was bad this week. So
Yeah.
we
Um,
both generally enjoyed that series. So that's how you know it wasn't very good. Um,
yeah, but anyway, moving into Undead Unluck itself, we have go uh Sky says just messaged me because I said that we were going live, and he's like, he always knew. So
okay.
we might get him sending some messages in a minute.
Oh, cool.
So we're still in the we. still in the flashback of Leia. I want to say Leia. For
I
was
think
that
it's
her name?
Lila. I
Lila.
think Lila is her name.
And Rip's just like, why did the stitches cause to bleed out? Why didn't she heal? And Latia's like, oh, Rip, don't. My fortune telling readings stop being accurate. Okay, so finally she acknowledged that she's not 100% accurate.
The weird thing is, based on the events of this chapter, it seems that the explanation for why her fortune telling stopped being accurate was her negator abilities awoke.
Yeah.
So
Well, what are her,
basically, the story is trying to say she was 100% accurate before this happened,
okay. Well, what
which
are
is
sorry.
if I was just going to say, which I still think having 100% accuracy of like future tellings is like I don't know, it's just like too ridiculous to believe before superpowers get involved.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
I was going to say what is her? What I'm just trying to. So what would you say? Okay, I'm looking on her page. Latia has an unnamed negator ability that allows her to redirect
Oh yeah,
attacks.
we'll talk about her ability at the end because I think it's kind of clear by the end.
Okay, all right. So yeah.
Okay, so then she basically, yeah. So basically, Rip tried to use a scalpel on him, either by accident or just having it near his face, and then it accidentally cut him as Latla tried to move it away. And so, anyway, Rip is extremely depressed and saying, whatever, my wound will stop bleeding soon, so just leave me alone. But his wound did not stop bleeding. In fact, he started bleeding a lot. And then immediately, apparently, she heard from someone she told fortunes for that about negator abilities, power that ignores the rules of the world and negates them instead. And then we kind of get back to the fight. Rex commented, flip flop rip. I'm not sure specifically what you mean with that one. If you could clarify, Rex, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're in the fight with Andy and Rip now. And Rip says, I negated the regeneration of your lungs, your breath will weaken, your physical abilities will decrease. When the match is over, give me your points. So basically, for those who don't remember, Rip is trying to get all of Victor's points from Andy so he could use the arc, similar to the way Juice used it to go talk to Luna. Um, and then Andy's response is, now is not the time for this. If we keep going, the end of the world will happen, and you and me, you and Latula will perish. I'll be fine. He's undead. But you two will not survive this. Anyway, so then we get back to that cutscene we've seen a couple of times, I think, by now, where Rip is saying, there's got to be some way to bring back the dead if we live in a world with crazy abilities like this. And Latula brings up, oh, there's an artifact that would allow you to jump to a new world and redo everything if you use it, called the Arc. And then Rip says, I won't die, and uses his eye, which, so someone pointed out, he's probably using that eye of his to control scalpels. So, I mean, like, again, it's kind of cool Rip has all these artifacts that let him do all these things and work with his abilities. But I don't think they're as cool as they could be just because we don't see Under or him acquiring them. You know, they just have, it's like, oh, cool, I just have this lying around. So, because like the big artifacts, like the Aegis, for example, that Billy recently got, like that came from a quest that they recently completed. So that's kind of a cool setup. But here, that's just a random thing that Rip has. And hey, Zengetsu, nice to see you.
Yeah, I was going to say, hey, Sungetsu as well, and also comment on Rex's comment. Him switching from helping the protagonist to going against them every other minute. In other words, he keeps flip-flopping. Okay, so that's what he meant.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely true, Rex. And it's very funny and true. Like, the justification is he'll do what needs to be done in order to save, like, the love of his life. And I get that, but it's just hilarious how it goes from 1 minute to the next. Almost to the point where in the spring arc, it was kind of a joke where he's like, I'm going to attack you, Andy. He's like, good, that's what I want you to do. Thanks for helping, buddy. And he's like, I'm not your buddy, and I'm not helping. It's like, thanks anyway.
Yeah.
Man, like, Rip is kind of a joke sometimes.
I
But
know.
anyway, continuing onwards, he's gonna board the ark, initiate a loop, and apparently somehow he stabbed Andy in the brain with one of his scalpels. And he says, "You've become too acquainted with my unrepair powers thanks to our battles. You don't think you'll be able to break the rules any longer. There's no escaping for you." And that kind of confused me, but I think I can explain what he meant by that in a second
Yeah,
because.
I think what he means is that if because as they say, the only way to kill a zombie is to destroy the brain. So I feel like this. Even though Andy says he's not a zombie, he's undead. I feel like the same rule does apply. So like, if Andy's brain gets destroyed, then he dies. He's like officially dead.
Yep, I can agree with that. But I was actually more referring to the first speech bubble of him becoming acquainted with the powers. But that's also true, what you said.
Yeah.
Anyway, so because like what I think what you were saying comes in the next part where he says, "In fact, all I need to do is land one blow to your brain."
Hmm.
Um, so then Rip says, "So we have no choice but to fight." And then Andy goes, "In that case, it's all or nothing." And he jabs the scalpel that was in his brain deeper in his brain. And I was very confused, but apparently this is what happens. Like Andy starts going crazy and berserk and starts screaming, "Sorry, bud, but I got something I can't give up either." I guess referring to Foucault effectively. And then Rip is like very confused, saying, "No way. He tampered with the wound on the brain on his own." And apparently, what Andy did, he explains, is normally fighting back was considered a means of healing himself. Did he fiddle with his brain to intentionally drop his intelligence low enough so he can't comprehend it? Okay, so this is basically what's happening, and this was the part of the chapter that kind of like dragged me down until I got it explained. Uh, so effectively, Rip's all the negator abilities are all based on conceptions, and since Rip's ability is unrepair, if Andy thinks of it as you inflicted an unrepairable wound, then he can't repair it with his regenerative abilities. And Andy got too used to that idea after all the fighting they've done. But now he's jabbed his brain so hard, he made himself stupid to the point where he can just use his abilities in a crazy berserker fashion, where it's actually his regeneration is going at a level where he's not consciously controlling it. And so it's still fixing him because he's regenerating constantly. That's how his powers work. And he's healing himself, but he's not doing it intentionally. So he basically got around Rip's ability by making himself dumber and going insane.
Which is insane but wicked sick at the same time.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing with Undead Linluck. It's like it tries its hardest to be smart, and technically this does work within its own power system. But it's like when you think about it too much, it seems kind of stupid. But when you don't think about it too much, it's just really cool. Because if you think about just Andy's like, "I'm just going to push myself to the brink and fight," it's pretty awesome. But if you think about like what's actually happening, it's like, okay, this kind of works, but also this is kind of dumb.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the thing with Undead Luck. Don't think about it too hard. Like there's thought put into it because once you do start thinking about it, it's just gets
It
harder
just
to like.
it just makes your brain explode at times.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so then Andy's just going wild. His destructive fighting power, as Rip says, is overriding his regenerative, is overriding his cuts, and his advantage is basically useless now. He can't inflict wounds that can't be repaired because Andy's just not going to think of it like repairing. His wounds will just automatically repair as he's simply going all out. And so Rip is at a loss of what he should do. And apparently his eye is bleeding. I guess that's from using the eye too much or something.
Possibly.
And then we kind of flash back. Apparently he called Latula saying, "Hey, I found Undead. I'm going to fight him and take his points." And then Latula's like, "You can't take Andy on alone." And then he says, "I want you to find the location of the round table for me." And I don't know how she's going to do that, but still. So then Rip is just like, "Okay, I need to finish this right here, right now." And he just tries to basically go crazy himself. But of course, Andy out crazies him and just uses his dead road attack by like a wound inflicted on his chest. Um, and then we get like one of these flashbacks. Characters usually get the light flashing before their eyes, but for once it wasn't a death sentence because Latula just
Yeah,
shows up on a motorcycle.
yeah. Latia
Just
was like, "Oh, you think you're gonna have a death rip? Not on my watch."
yep, you aren't getting a dramatic character death. Someone else's. Uh, anyway, so then Rip says, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And then we get um, another part of the chapter I'm a little conflicted on. So Latila basically says, "You're always like this, always making decisions on your own, taking things on yourself, and you keep me from getting involved." And basically talks about a bunch of stuff they did together, like cutting off his legs, joining under, fighting Autumn, always try to leave me behind. And I don't know what you mean by leave you behind for Autumn. You were there. You were literally there.
Yeah,
Whatever. um, Either way, and also like they joined under together, so I don't get that either. But either way, she says, if it's okay for you to risk your life for the person you love, let me do the same for you. Let me put my life on the line for you at the very least. And I thought I don't know what your thoughts are on this one, Luke, but for me, this was a little too much for me. I just thought this felt super over dramatic just because she's
yeah,
oh my
yeah,
God, I love you, Rip. You got to let me fight for you. And I'm just like, okay, I guess we're in the
yeah.
rain and you're confessing all these feelings.
Yeah, I really was just like not really thinking too much into this point.
Yeah, I know that other people who've read this chapter, probably especially with the end, really found it emotionally captivating. And if you did, that's awesome for you. I'm glad you're enjoying this series and the chapter. But for me, it's like I'm not like invested to the point where I'm just like, oh man, you finally confessed your feelings. It's like, well, I know she had them, but I didn't really care.
Yeah,
I
uh,
didn't really care.
I mean, maybe if we saw more of Rip and Latia, maybe.
And say Sky said, and yes, also a good point. It literally started. It wasn't raining, but when it got to the castle, it didn't start raining till after all this dramatic stuff. I'm pretty sure because I think by
Oh,
the time Andy got here, or Seal, Seal brought Andy here. I think it was just still dry weather. So all the rain is just for the dramatic effect of this love confession scene.
yeah. Um,
Rex, as I said before, I can't really take Rip seriously more, so it didn't really hit me. That's also a fair point, and that might be another reason. There's another reason this doesn't hit as well for me. I'll talk about it at the end. But yeah. Anyway, before I keep reading, were you going to say something, Luke?
no, I wasn't. No, I wasn't.
Okay, cool. So anyway, so then Rip gives Latla a big hug, and then it's all better. Anyway, so then she says she has a plan. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm sure this is going to be a very complex and intricate strategy. This will be fun. But then she says, on my signal, this won't work on him twice. So I was very interested in the plan, but I wasn't sure what they were going to do. And Latila's plan is literally grab Andy from behind and say, okay, Rip, now hit him. And she says, now you won't hit him. I guarantee it 100%. And this is where we can, I think, get and talk about her ability. Because, of course, what Rip does is he launches the attack and it does hit him. And also her. So I think what Latila's negator ability is inaccurate, effectively.
All right,
I know
that do.
inaccurate is the technical term, but it's something along the lines of incorrect or um, unpredictable, some people said. But basically, she uses her fortune telling abilities in reverse. Because remember when they fought Autumn, you actually probably don't. She said some line about, hey,
Oh,
or
actually, you know what would be more accurate term for hers? Unfortunate.
oh yeah, some people also brought that up too, and that could also be it. So yeah, unfortunate. Yeah, let's just use that one. Unfortunate. I think she also used in the Autumn fight because she also said when Rip asked, "Hey, what are our chances of beating Autumn?" and she says, "Oh, we are 100% gonna lose." And I was just like, "Okay, was that supposed to be dramatic?" But no, that's just her extra ability, I guess. And yes, Rex. Basically, her plan is literally Goku and Piccolo versus Raditz. That's what I was thinking too because it's Latila's just came in. He's like, I'm just gonna hold him down, just say you can't hit him, and then you'll hit him. And I'm like, okay, I guess that works. But here's why the other reason this chapter, this moment didn't hit as much. Because, of course, they wanted this to be super dramatic with her say a dying words, just wait, Lila, your dashing prince coming to save you. And, Rip crying his eyes out. Because number one, Andy's undead. He's not going to die from this. He's also the main character.
Yeah.
Two, Victor's probably going to show up and negate any way of this actually being a victory for him. Three, one way or another, a loop's going to happen, right? Another loop will happen. And so all of these deaths that we're probably going to be seeing on the next couple of chapters won't really mean anything because they'll just come back to life in the next loop. So in comparison to, say, like Dr. Stone, for instance, like we had an arc where a bunch of characters getting killed off, and there was like a tension of will they come back or won't they? And eventually, like they did, but also like when they did, we kind of learned why. And I think the why of it was also very interesting to know about. But in this case, it's more like, okay, characters can die left and right. We already know they're going to come back, and we know how and why because it was stated way early on. So it's kind of like all the character deaths, at least for me, don't hold much weight in terms of the fact that they're just going to be reborn effectively in the next timeline. So,
Yeah.
that her plan is dumb. Surely there are better ways to go about it. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what this impact has on Rip next week, but it probably won't matter in the end.
Yeah, because my prediction is Andy just got his brain stabbed, so he's going to be fully out of it. And then Victor can take over. And then Victor, being much stronger than Andy, is just going to be able to easily deal with Rip now because he's an emotional wreck and couldn't do anything until Latila did like the Goku Piccolo move, as Rex brought up. So I'm pretty sure Victor's just going to come in, he's going to win, and then he's going to be like, okay, you can go for the next loop or something. I don't know. And then that way he'll be like, you can go for the next loop, but then we're going to be friends in the next loop and team up or something. That's my prediction. So
Yeah.
basically none of this means anything because Latila will be back. Rip will have a better appreciation for her. I don't know. I guess for me, like I wasn't too invested in these characters because with Latila, for example, like she just died effectively this chapter. But like, how important was she in the story? We barely even saw her do or say all that much. She was just kind of like Rip's friend who helped him out every now and then, and her character was just being a love interest with the dead sister. She didn't develop much beyond that independently. And I think this is one of those times where if the author had spent more time, let's say Fuko and Under, like getting to know Latila, because they only had like one conversation while she was doing that, or Latila was doing more stuff on her own when Rip kept pushing her away on all these missions he was doing, we could have gotten to emotionally connect with her more, and this might have hit. But as it is, it's just a characters I don't care about too much, whose deaths won't mean anything other than character growth. So that's the thing with Undead Unluck. The fighting was cool, the tactics were interesting, but it also was going to mean nothing by the end of all this.
Yeah, it wasn't. And
Rex says, I would love if Victor does take over. I'd be interested in him being driver's seat. Yeah, I agree. I do want Victor to come back in the driver's seat for a while. And we do want to like learn more about him because he has like a lot of, because we still need to know a lot about Victor himself. And I am definitely more interested in him than Rip because Rip's whole story is the girl I liked died by my hands because God is a jerk and he does stuff like this. And now I'm going to reset time. So yeah, that's all Rip's character is. Comparatively, Victor has like much more interesting lore and probably a deeper connection to the main antagonist.
Yeah, definitely. So that is Undead Unluck. So I guess since Rex and Sky said are here, which series would you like to talk about next? We'll give you the chance. So we've got Akane, Witch Watch, Ayashimon, or Mission Yosakura Family.
We only have 4 more?
Yeah, we only have 4 more.
Oh, well, I'm surprised.
Yeah, well, because 2 of them are on break, like My Hero and
right.
Black
Clover. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's the other reason I'm glad like we have smartphone now. So hopefully it'll be something to talk about while these series.
I haven't read
Oh, okay, fair enough,
Uh,
guys. I don't know what time zone you're in, but that's fair.
you know,
And Rex, I haven't read One Piece myself, but Luke, if you want to talk
I
about One
will
Piece,
say I would say One Piece really was just more focusing on the big battle that's been going on for ages now. So that's really all I can say on it. It was decent, but I want to. It's not something I would ride home about basically. So I can't. Okay, we could do a carne.
these guys that also brought Ayashimon, so we'll do Akane, and then I guess we can do Ayashimon
Yeah, yeah, that works. That works.
because I think, yeah, I definitely have some stuff to say about Akane. It was a good chapter, but also I think something important to say about these couple chapters.
Yeah. So we've got the first color page after it, after the initial color pages.
Yeah, which I mean is a good sign, but Phantom Zero also got a
Yeah.
follow up color page, so it doesn't
Well,
necessarily mean stuff. But we also got a Twitter account and a bunch
yeah,
of other stuff. So
yeah. So, and people seem to be really, they seem to be really pushing Akane in the magazine itself.
yeah,
So
which is very good.
yeah, so we're just gonna have to wait until next month when we get the first volume to see how good the volume sales are. If the volume sales make like I don't know 50K, then yeah, it's set then.
Yeah, but man, that would be crazy because that would mean it would even have outsold like Witch Watch's initial sales. Honestly, if it
Yeah,
gets close to Witch Watch's initial sales, I think I'll feel confident because it's not a battle shonen, so it doesn't need to sell like as well as those. But like it doesn't need to do like blue box numbers and somehow get crazy numbers out of nowhere. But if it got like Witch Watch numbers, I think it'll be in an okay place
yeah, it would be. It
at
would be.
least. But if it does better, hey, awesome.
Yeah.
But the other thing I want to say with the color page is like we see all the disciples that probably are going to be meeting down the line. And again, I thought that we would be switching to one of them for an arc, but seems that's not quite what happened.
Well, I think we're in like more of the transitional stage as well between the last between the first disciple and what might be the next disciple, which I'm hoping is the UG look-alike.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And that also gets to something I want to say about this once we're at the end of the chapter. Rex says, Akane to me has been very consistently good. Never anything awful. Never anything amazing.
Yeah, that
Okay.
that's fair. That's fair to say.
It's a consistently good series. I'd say some chapters were very close to blowing me away. But I think that's fair. There's not been a chapter where I've all of a sudden like have to tell people, okay, yeah, this is like the must read series. I'd still recommend it, of course, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. But I think
Yeah,
it's just consistently good at this stage is fine. And if anything, the only chapter I mean, I think there's only one or two chapters where I was a little less thrilled on, one of them being the last chapter. But I'll talk about it in reference to this chapter specifically as we
yeah.
go through it.
So, beginning of the chapter, we get a flashback. What else is new with this series? Where we have the teacher from the last chapter talking about one of her students appearing on TV, and back in the day, he talked about how his dream was to be a comedian, and she rooted for his success at the time, but it seems he quit after half a year at comedy development agency, and now he's just scraping by on odd jobs. So this gives like again a good preset for why she was being so hard on Akane in the last chapter. It's not that she wasn't all for Akane doing Rakugo. It's just like she has seen this type of failure happen before, and as a teacher, she doesn't want to go through all of that again because she thinks that she would have been a failure in their eyes, and she has to be responsible for them because they're under her care as a teacher.
Yep. And I think that's fair to say as a teacher because I feel um, what was it? Assassination Classroom. I think the principal of that series, he was very hard on his students because he's seen what happens if he's too lax about it. So I do like those stories where teachers are very affected by what happens to the students as they finish school.
Yeah, but on with me, I've just had praise from one of my old teachers. So that's made me very happy. Because they saw I put on Facebook like, "Hey, I finished my book," and they were like, "Oh, well done, Luke."
Oh, nice. It's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, continuing on, we cut to the Rakugo itself as we see Akane telling the story of a priest at a Buddhist temple who was not feeling well, and the doctor was visiting to see what's wrong, and we have the owner of the establishment being like, "Oh, she's more relaxed than the last time, so she's improved." So yeah, it's nice to actually see Akane getting that, because like from the first time being like incredibly a little bit nervous and a little bit full of herself, but now that she has a idea of like, okay, this is the type of audience I'm dealing with, so I know how to get them on my side now from past experiences, but also from watching Ryuji. I think that's what his name was.
Yeah.
Ryuji, however you pronounce his name.
Yeah, I think it was Kyoji, but I'm not sure.
Kyoji, that was it. Kyoji. I want to say Ryuji for some reason.
I think that was my fault. I think I called him that in the beginning.
Yeah. So we have going on telling a story and saying like oh, do you happen to have ten Suki, and say like Tensuki 10 well, I guess I have to say no. And in fact, the priest doesn't understand what Tensuki um, uh, meant, and the priest was too proud to admit that he didn't know what Tensuki was, despite acting confident. It was a question regarding his own body and health, so he simply had to find out what Tensuki was. I don't know why. That just makes me chuckle inside a little bit. Like someone is too proud to admit that he doesn't know what something is, despite the fact it's important.
Yeah, and I mean, I've definitely been in that position, so it's definitely relatable in any time period.
Yeah. So we have a boy in the story asking the doctor what Tensuki actually is. Well, the apprentice of I guess the doctor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the apprentice, I think, of the monk who was talking and was talking to a doctor.
Okay, and the doctor says that it means flatulence. So they got their fart joke in there.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's like, okay, well, at least we got the fart joke out of the way. It's got to be at least one or two of these, like even in the Edo period. So then it's kind of interesting because then we see. Oh wait, what was his name?
Let me go back and find out what his name was.
Okay, you do that. So Akane's friend from school, who was once her bully, basically says, "It's been a while since I've seen Akane perform Rakugo."
Jumbo.
Jumbo. Oh, okay. How do I forget a name like that? Yeah, so Jumbo is like just watching the performance and thinking she's like a totally different person. She must have put in so much work since last time. And we actually see a video recording he has on her phone showing Akane like, this is what you look like performing. And he's like, yeah, you did good here. And then she's like, it sucks. And he's like, why? And she's like, look at that. My eye line is all over the place. And he's like, why does that matter? He's like, it is a problem because the audience is going to use my gaze to gauge how tall the doctor's size is and the distance between the two. And this isn't going to help. And I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. I've never considered that. Because when you're performing, I guess, by yourself, you kind of have to indicate where all the characters are.
Yeah, you do. You really do. But also as well, it's not just that, because it's the fact that your eyes can tell so much without any words. So having your eyes fumble all over the place, that can be kind of distracting. But if you really are focused in the moment, you can get the audience engaged by just even just a frightening stare. Like, you don't even have to say if, you just have to look at them and be like, okay, this guy on stage is threatening. I'm going to be paying attention to him.
Yep. So I guess moving onwards, basically, Akane wants to practice again. and she's thinking about how she can improve her performance. And I think this is Jumbo saying this.
Yeah, it
He's
is.
saying, if I were Akane, I would have turned my back on Rakugo. Um, the story of Akane's dad being expelled was shocking. People were very upset at the old man who expelled her, Ishio. I think, yeah,
Yeah,
Ishio.
yeah, Ishio.
Yeah, so, but it also drew interest towards Ishio Arakawa's Rakugo. And we just see like a double spread of him looking super evil. And apparently, ethics, they say ethics cannot overcome emotional impact, which that's a statement right there.
Yeah,
Over time, criticism turned to defense and then praise until you had people saying the expulsion controversy was legendary. So we kind of see these tweets in the background, and basically people are saying um, people got interested in his Rakugo because of the whole incident. And then when they saw him, they're like, oh man, he's such a talented guy. He probably had to expel them because they weren't very good at their jobs. And even Jumbo's like, it made even me mad. That wasn't even my dad, and that ticked me off.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, this is kind of interesting, and I think one of my favorite parts of the chapter because we kind of get to learn more about Isho, like what happened with him, and like what did everyone think about this incident that happened. And apparently, the answer is it caused a controversy, but the controversy just ultimately elevated his status, and so he's kind of more popular than ever because of what he did.
yeah,
And Rex's original question was, "Do you happen to have Tenshiki?" They meant to ask, "Do you happen to have farts?" That's just a weird way to phrase that. I agree. I think there might be some context we're also missing from this. Like, I think it might have something to do with the man's health, is what they were saying in the Rakugo performance, um, because they talk about it comes from an old book of medicine. So I think they were just trying to evaluate the old man's health and just seeing how he's like doing distress wise. But, but that's just my guess. I will admit it's kind of a weird story, and I
yeah.
am missing context.
Yeah, it is a weird story, especially since it involves a fart joke.
Yep.
But I do like the fact that that it's pretty much how I was like how I imagined it would be with Jumbo and Akane becoming friends. Like even after all of this, she still chose to become a Rakugo, and he can't begin to guess how much feeling went into that decision, and it's not something he'd do on a whim. So it's kind of like saw like he saw something called the fact that yeah, if it was me, I would have quit. But the fact that she kept going on, that kind of inspired him, and maybe that's what made him lead to maybe I should be friends with her rather than bullying her.
I guess so.
Yeah. So we have Akane still going on about the story, and we get the teacher's perspective here from thinking about being in a classroom every day and knowing how difficult it is to convey things to others and the nerves that come when speaking before an audience. Because in a sense, like a teacher's classroom is like it's like its own stage, and trying to get kids to pay attention to you for up to like sometimes 4 hours a day, it's not an easy task.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not. But I'm kind of glad they drew that parallel because now there's like a connection between those two.
Yeah,
And she can also recognize, like based on her own experience as a teacher, like what Akane is doing.
yeah. So, and she says the nerves come from that come with speaking before an audience to make your audience laugh, and it's not an act that you can pick up in a day. And um, she thinks back to the guy who wanted to be a comedian and compares it to Akane. Thinking that she saw him in Akane and thought she was only indulging in a dream and choosing a career that's something as obscure as Akane, and she couldn't sign off on that. But after seeing her do her Rakugo, she's kind of on the side of Akane, thinking like, "Oh, you were right all along." Thinking back on what Jumbo said, unless you want to judge her future without seeing what she's passionate about. But still, the teacher did have a good point of like, yeah, just do if you want to do this, fine, but at least keep up with your studies so that you can at least, even if it doesn't fail, even if it does fail, you can at least have a backup.
Yeah, and we can talk more about that near the end too, I think, because there's a page that kind of goes into that a bit more.
So I don't know. Yeah, I think it is the teacher saying this where on page 18 that she still has a lot to learn.
Oh yeah, that is
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
But,
But
and then we
I
come
love.
back to the school. Oh,
Yeah, I was just going to say on the bottom of page 18, future plan survey, Akane is just like Raku go
Raku Go Ka.
Yeah, just
I
love
mean,
the
they
fact
probably
that
use the actual Japanese characters in the original, but yeah, basically that's what she said
yeah,
for her first, second, and third choice. And then she's like, you can also walk the walk. And she's like, yes, ma'am, I'll sit through uh, many hours of guidance counseling as you need to give me. And here's what she asks: aren't you worried? Worried? It's like, yeah, by not going to college, you're severely limiting your potential careers. The path you've chosen to pursue might end up hurting you in the end. Are you sure okay with that? You're not worried? She's like, no, not at all. And then she says, and I guess it was a pointless question. She said, accept your survey. Make sure you thank Ozaki later. And which is Jumbo's last name.
yeah.
Again, it's just like one of those things where apparently Jumbo and Akane have like very similar last names. That may or may not lead to something, but that's a side point. Anyway, so before we get into the flyer, this is where I think is a fair point, what you said, where it's like she could go to like a school with like a Rakugo club or something and still find ways to perform and continue to build up her career while still getting a college degree.
Well,
So
sorry, I was just going to say, here's what she could do as well. Like, she could be like, there could be like a college out there that specializes in using Rakugo in other areas. Like, because what is Rakugo? It's like telling stories. So she could be like, okay, here's a specialist school that has Rakugo as a subject, but also has like the like writing the stories for Rakugo.
well, I mean, I don't think Rakugo, I think in general, the way they described it was like retelling of old stories, mostly from the Edo period. I think that's just like what they do. I'm not sure if they tell like new stories. They might. I could be wrong about that.
Might do.
But at the very least, I think I get what you're saying. She could. There's probably a school where you can like study that as like a major, but then find other ways to apply it, like a theater degree or something like that. Um, but at the very least, I do kind of agree with what you were saying that keeping up with her studies and keeping her options open is still like a realistic thing. And in part of me kind of wishes it ended that way, where she kind of like told Akane this story, and then she's like, "Okay, I'll just go to school with Rakugo, but also learn some other skills or something."
Yeah.
I think that would have been, if they wanted to go the more realistic route rather than the shonen route, that might have been a bit better.
Might
But
have been.
side
But
point.
maybe based on what we see at the ending here, maybe this might be the thing that really kicks her into thinking like maybe I should think about something else.
Possibly, because I guess we can just talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
Basically, she gets a poster for or flyer for a Rakugo competition for students, and it can't hurt to have another feather in your cap. So then she says, "Why not enter this one?" Because the judge is none other than Isho Arakawa, head judge,
Yes.
basically the final boss of the series, the one who destroyed your dad's dream.
Yeah. And I feel like I said, this might be the point where Akane is knocked down a peg and she's like, she goes through like the depressive state and being like, yeah, I might actually think about doing something else other than Rakugo.
And if we get that this early, that'd be nice to get that through. And then maybe one of the pupils can help her out of it.
Yeah.
But continuing onwards,
Maybe maybe one of the pupils might feel like, hey, I've been doing Rakugo, but I've also been doing this that actually benefits from Rakugo. Have you ever tried doing traditional acting?
yeah, or something along those lines. Yeah, so that would be kind of nice if what you were saying earlier actually does come through one of them.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is minor point is that this competition is apparently for students, so I guess high school level, which is interesting because Akane has basically been performing like semi-professionally. So I feel like you would think she has like a leg up on most of these guys just based on that alone. So
Well, here's
that's
the
thing number
thing.
one.
Here's the thing. We don't know how many of these other students have been doing semi-professional.
That is also true, and but my prediction is there's only going to be a few of them. Like most of them are going to be like basically just goofballs, but then some of them are actually going to be serious, and that'll be only like the final rounds that really matter
Yeah.
of how this competition is held. Anyway, the other point I want to make is that I did like this chapter. I like how it helps establish the next big thing. It helps us figure out like what was happening with Ishio, and it even gave us some perspective on Jumbo and the teacher as well. My thing is though, I feel like this chapter, like if I was writing the story, I feel like this chapter and the last chapter, I felt like they could go gone together as one chapter because I think instead of spending like all the time we did with the teacher going back and forth with first Akane and then Jumbo was kind of unnecessary. We probably could have cut that down a few pages and then just have like only half the chapter be of her talking with them or even less than half. And then the rest be this chapter where she watches the performance and then we see a bit of Ishio and giving her the flyer. I feel like that might have worked a bit better just because it felt like we spent a lot of time on this teacher. And if we need to have her down the line, then okay, I can kind of see why we did all that time. But at the same time, she's also only here for two chapters. So it's the difference between one or two. So at least at
Yeah.
this point, I feel like those two chapters could have been put together and then I wouldn't have had like any issues really even with the last chapter. Because I think this chapter did everything I wish the last chapter did, which is kind of give us like we got Rakugo and we got like the transition into the next big arc. But because last chapter, all we really got was Akane talking to her high school teacher who we just met for the first time. And like the
Yeah.
only real thing is Jumbo got his like reintroduction to the story. So there's that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, good
Sky,
chapter, but I just kind of wish they were combined. Anyway.
fair enough. Fair enough. Sky said, "New Akane arc incoming." Yes. Nah, this ain't Undead Unluck. We don't need fast pacing. I thought you were going to say, nah, this ain't Black Clover. We don't need fast pacing.
Also true. And Sky said, I don't mind a slower paced story. It's just that I felt like all the last chapter really did was set up for this chapter, which did the meat of most of the stuff. We didn't even have like a Rakugo performance last chapter. Last
Yeah.
chapter was mostly just talking with the teacher, and that was kind of my issue with it. Again, if we established her character for importance later, that's fine. But at this point, it just felt like, why did we spend all this time here? But it's not a big deal. Like it on the grand scheme of the story, it probably won't be. It's just like a minor issue when you read a story week to week. And yeah, I'm excited for the new upcoming arc because we're gonna have I guess, a tournament arc.
Yeah,
Effective.
a tournament arc. We're gonna get the tournament arc. Let's just hope it's. Well, no, it won't be as hype as the Pokemon Masters 8 tournament that's coming up.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah,
And I've lost track of the Pokemon anime so much.
yeah,
Like I keep
yeah,
thinking, okay, I'll watch from this season. But it's like, no, then this season came out. And then Generations is a thing. So I don't even know what's going on.
yeah. Pokemon, the Pokemon anime at the moment, it's basically the biggest tournament ever because it is basically the Champions tournament.
Yeah, that's I've seen the promotional art, which will be cool. And Kana's giving me some Here no Go vibes. Yeah, I've only read a few chapters of that series, but I agree. I mean, of course, the biggest vibes this does give me is Act Age, but hopefully this has a better course than that series.
Yeah, we don't. We try to not talk about Act Age as much as possible.
Yep.
Yeah, but
And so, as Skies has recommended, we will now be talking about Ashiman, which is
yeah,
another series that's like really interesting to talk about this week.
yeah, especially since the ending, I'm like, oh no, oh no.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, starting off the chapter, we have this guard outside, I guess, the hotel where where Uru is, and he's like, "Oh, sir, what you here? Ayashimons, what do you want?" And just it's Maru punching this guy out of the way. He's like, "Yeah, get out of here!" And the staff members are like, "Manager, we have a problem. The Todoroki Alliance is all gathered outside." And Maru is like, "Hey, big sis, we're here. So where are you?" And she's like, "Oh, we're held on the 40th floor in the executive lounge. They're doing a sealing ritual on the lower floor, and you got 5 hours to get me, Ten, and Koto out of here before we're sealed away for a century." And he's like, "Oh," and Maru's like, 5 hours, got you. So how many bad guys are there? And she's like, "Oh, about 1,000." And he's like, "Oh, really, 1,000? Leave it to us." Yeah, so he's
Yep.
just like, I want to fight 1,000 people.
Yep. And guys, just addressing your comments, yeah, I will agree. P6 is probably more like Act Age based on the way it's done. Which, by the way, PPPPP had a pretty good chapter this week. I love the sibling moment we got between the main character and his sister, and I think we're going to be moving into some more family drama with the older brother, so that'll be interesting.
Okay,
And I asked you, yep.
question. I just have a quick question. Are all the siblings in PPPPP so far douches?
Well, that's the thing. Like some of them are, but a lot of them, like the youngest brother. Well, actually, Luck is the youngest, but youngest before him. He was kind of a jerk, but it was more of like in terms of being he's a very just anxious kid using it as a defense mechanism. And once it comes down, he's a cool guy. And then his sister, who we met, she has her moments of being just like, okay, you didn't need to do that. But she's in general just like a very happy go lucky character. And then some of them are more like mysterious. So honestly, most of the siblings are fine. Some of them seem like they might be sociopaths, but and some of them are just kind of weirdos. But I think in general, like so far, the siblings aren't all bad people. The dad might be a bad person. He
Okay,
like hits his kids a
so
lot.
so a bad dad in a shonen manga. What else is new? We've got another one of them all as well coming up. When we get to talk about Mission Yozakura, because
Yeah.
that was like, oh my word, Momo.
Yeah, and this guy that says not at all. So yeah, the siblings
Okay.
aren't all jerks. There might be some that'll end up being jerks. I have some suspicions about a few, but I like the ones we've met so far, at least as characters, but also some of them as people.
Okay.
I really just can't wait for them to be emancipated from their dad at this point, because
All
man,
right.
the
Fair
guy
enough.
is the worst. Anyway, but continuing with this chapter by Ashimon. So like a mom and a daughter comes out, and this is the point where Mara's like, "Oh yeah, there are hotel guests here. They're just regular people." So he quickly pretends to be an employee and saying, "It's like, oh, the guard fell asleep. Don't worry, I'll get another employee to cover for him. He just too tired to work right now." And apparently he's like,
That
"Ha, I
works.
fooled them."
That actually works.
Yeah, I guess it worked. Either way, they're not going to question it. But anyway, Moro, I like this part of the chapter where Moro actually says, "Hey, there are some normal guests here that have nothing to do with this. We don't want them to find out what's going on while we're fighting." And so, interestingly, him and I forgot his name, glasses guy, I forgot his name.
Yeah.
He says they're both on the same page of not disturbing the guests. And Mara basically like orders the gang to basically fight without letting them know what's happening. And so they're weirdly both on the same page with the staff, where it's like, okay, we need to fight, but also we need to make sure the humans don't find out about us. So I kind of like that aspect of Maru actually being more mature about his approach. I'm not sure
Oh
if
yeah,
that's character
definitely.
growth, but I'll take it as character growth.
I'll take it as character growth as well. Um, so Mara's being told like, okay, inform everyone that to be discreet about it, dispose of everyone without hurting any guests, and just do the best you can. Just do the best you can do. So we see the Todoroki Alliance coming into the hotel. We see the second in command kicking a receptionist from his post as a guest is checking out, and he's like, "Oh yes, pardon me, sir, you're checking out. Right, please come again." Not even questioning the fact that he has a different uniform.
Yep. It's just like, don't question it, people. This is all okay. And they basically still keep going because, like, the hotel are fighting Todoroki saying, "Sir, you look unwell. Please allow me to escort you," while putting him in a headlock. And then again, like, the staff are just trying to welcome everybody and hide the fighting behind like suitcases and whatnot. And then they were doing pretty well until Morrow just like starts punching people like too hard because he can't control his, well, he
Yeah,
can control his strength, but still not too well.
yeah. To the point that that has to say that okay, the weak point for both Kisumi and Tanuki are their tails. Give them a firm boot to the butt for me, would you? Yeah.
So that's interesting to learn. We know the weak point now.
Yeah, so anybody who comes in contact with Tanuki, just make sure you don't attack their tail, and you'll be all right.
No, the tail is where you have to kick them.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying like yeah, I'm just saying like if you come across one in real life, you don't want to mess with it. Like just make sure to avoid the tail.
Well, it's more like if you run into one and they want to fight you, go for the tail.
Yeah, or go for the tail if they want to fight you. So we have 10 saying we have 10 being like, how can you be so calm about all of this as all this craziness is going around about around Ura? And she says, "Oh, it's all right because I have faith in in Maru, and I'm not that soft to say something like that. I'm a matter of stealing your nerves, but I may not look like it, but I'm a Yasukosu, and I've made my decision and my choice, and I choose all that's left is to see how it all pans out." So she's basically playing the long game here.
Yep, effectively. And also, she brings a good point, and she's a yakuza, so basically, all this craziness is pretty par for the course for her.
Yeah.
Uh, and then, I guess continuing onwards, Glasses guy wants Moro to be researched. I don't know how they're doing that, but or what they're gonna think they're gonna find, but whatever. But then Moro punches the dude so hard that he crashes into a wall and breaks something. And at this point, all the people take notice, and Oboro is like, "Who was the one who said we couldn't get noticed?"
But then
And then
Glasses
the
guy
hotel employee. Oh, God.
sorry, I was just gonna. Glasses guy comes in and and starts making up the fact that it's someone's birthday just to distract everyone.
Yep. And then he calls all of this basically an action show to honor your career as a film actor. And so everybody just accepts that. And then he says, "Please, everyone, go to your room so he can continue showing off the actions scene in the lobby."
Yeah, and the
And so then
guest.
people all
Uh,
disappear.
sorry, I just want to say quickly that the guest is just like confused. Like, it's not my birthday until next month.
Oh, yeah. That's also, yeah. Okay, good thing you point that out because he did say that. And that is kind of funny because it's like, you know what, dude, just go with it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Obro's like, "I'll admit that was neatly done," as he takes off his employee hat because he doesn't need to pretend to work there anymore.
Yes. I love how he's still just going along with that ruse.
Yep. This chapter was hilarious. I think that's the thing. It's a good mix of comedy and action. I think that's what I liked about this chapter. Um, and so Mara's okay as the humans aren't in danger. And then he basically, uh, let's see, the glasses man says, "This was an unfortunate decision for you guys to come here for the continuation of your alliance." And she tells Maru, "You really shouldn't even be in this town anymore." And I was like, "I don't care what you have to say. Both me and Big Sis have to score to settle, and you don't get to tell us how to do it." And of course, he goes all, that's unacceptable behavior, blah, blah, blah. You need a lesson, and I can't allow further damage. And then Obro's like, okay, well, then just let us go, and then we will leave. And he's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to challenge you to a one on one ritual duel tomorrow.
And everyone is just freaking out at this point. Like we're gonna get killed. We're gonna get killed. And everything. But Morrow's just like, okay, I'll accept the challenge, and we get the rules of the challenge that they've woven the traditional Subumi drums into the hotel's orchestra, so the music will prevent any of the guests from noticing, no matter how rough things get, and entirely fitting for the luxurious atmosphere of the hotel. And this reminds Maru of not a manga, but an episode, the final episode of Ultra 7. So I don't know if that's an actual series.
I don't know either. I was hoping you would. But yeah, it's something like this
Yeah,
series does make some references, but this is probably like an older series.
Ultra 7.
Yeah, it's like a
Oh,
1960s sci-fi show. What
it's
the? How old is Maru?
it's Ultraman. So I guess
Okay,
that
so
makes
it's
sense.
just Ultra. Okay, Ultraman. Like I've heard of Ultraman. I thought it might have been, but I thought Ultra 7 might be someone more specific. Okay,
Yeah,
whatever. It's a spin-off of Ultra.
yeah, Ultra 7 came out in 1967.
Yeah, jeez. Okay, see, I think that's arguably another weak point of the series. No one's gonna get all these references. Like these are references like my I think my parents were born around the 60s, late 60s. They were born. They won't even
Yeah,
know these things. These are like grandparent references, literally. Oh man.
but Glass,
Anyway,
yeah, Glasses informs Mo that he's not going to be the opponent in the ritual duel. As Uru saying, "Oh, I hear classical music. The ritual duel must be starting." And Colt is like, "Oh, he may talk." Tamagawa. Oh, okay. I think that's the name of Glasses.
yeah,
Um,
we'll probably won't remember next time either, folks.
yeah,
That's a
he
name I
may
won't.
he may act or talk, and he may act and talk all nice, but that's the front. Because ever since Coulter first met him, the guy is a real jerk, and he's a nasty piece of work who's all about using the meanest, underhanded methods. And it turns out that the person that is going to be doing the challenge is none other than Dopo himself.
Yep. And so, if you guys have been watching our streams for a while, first, thank you. And second, we were predicting that once we get to the fight with Dopo, we can be pretty sure that we're near endgame. And so far, I thought what was stopping us from fighting him is just like recruiting more people to fight Dopo effectively. But now that we got to the point where I think I want to say you like called this one where Tamagawa was actually working with Dopo. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I
I
think
think
you
it
did
did.
call this one. Yeah, and so first, good job, and second, I guess this since we're fighting Dopo, like if we can take him down, then effectively
It's the end of the
we can end the
series.
series because we just beat the guy. Like maybe we might have a few more for like an epilogue of like, okay, but what happened all the way back then? Maybe there's another bad guy behind the scenes. But like the series would have just like burnt out most of itself by this point.
Yeah,
If so,
yeah.
yeah, I
Sky
think this
said
series is done.
Sky said is saying axe, axe, axe. Yeah, I always said that Dopo once we got to his fight because that was the whole goal of the series. We have to fight Dopo.
Hmm. And like Luke was saying earlier, these series have been out for like 20 plus chapters now, so it's kind of swim or sink, and I think this one's going to be one of the sinks, which
Yeah.
that is unfortunate. But honestly, like if this one has to like not survive for some other series to keep going, like
Mm,
uh, Duran Duran maybe, or Akane, then that's fine.
yeah.
The weird thing
Yeah.
is this series is showing like signs of okay, we're almost done, while Duran Duran is like okay, we have more to go. I don't know what Earthchild's doing because its last chapter, its chapter seems like okay, we're gonna go rescue the mom now. But then,
But then
like,
after that, what's next?
yeah, but what's weird is like this chapter, they okay, because this is the quick Earthchild review.
Okay.
So they're in so mom's in space. They got to the International Space Station. So I thought, cool. Now they just need to like explain the plan of how to get her down from space. And then they're going to execute that plan. But apparently, in order to make their plan work, they need to get the baby to recognize the mom in her current state. And the main character's plan is, okay, I have an idea. And what he says is, okay, we're going to go back to Earth and visit the grandparents, my wife's parents. And I'm just like,
Okay, so
what happened to
let
all the urgency we built up to
let me
rescue your wife?
okay, so let me get this straight. What you've just said to me, they had to get to the they had to get to the ISS to find out exactly what they have to do to rescue the wife to get her back to Earth. So in order to do that, they have to go back to Earth.
Yep. And now make a pit stop to introduce to the grandparents.
Excuse me while I just do this. What was the point of all
like
that?
the dumbest part. The really dumb part is it's like, okay, how are we going to locate her? She's like, because space debris is hard to locate. For those who aren't aware, there's like a lot of it in space, and
That would be
pinpointing like a specific thing is like very difficult. So I'm like, okay, I'm interested. How you guys going to do that? And you want to take a guess how they did that?
no. I want to before you say it, I want to say that that's like if in Doctor Stone, it turns out that oh yeah, they're on the moon, but they have to go back to Earth to get something that they missed.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what happened.
Yeah. So what was it? What was that? What you were going to say?
Okay. What I was going to say is the way they were decided to find the mom is at some point the main character sees like, oh, there she is. And like the other characters are like, what are you talking about? There's nothing out there. He's like, no, I can sense her. And I'm like, what? Apparently the power of love.
Oh, I'm calm. I'm calm. I'm calm. It's just I feel like I lose two functioning brain cells every time we mention Earthchild. And speaking of child, has that baby grown up yet?
No. And in fact, one chapter I thought we were going to get that time skip because that's actually one of the mechanisms of like in story where, oh, like the mom, for example, like she got aged up effectively, or children get aged up so they can go do their stuff. So I thought the baby was going to have that happen to him, but then the dad's like, no, I want to watch him grow up. So he's going to stay a baby. So he's going to stay a baby for a while.
We all have
and
that.
Skyza, to answer your question, if they don't know where she is, then why'd they go up in the first place? They have a general idea, but pinpointing something out in space is a little more tricky once you're up there. So that's kind of more where I was going
Just
with it.
build a Doctor Stone satellite. That'll fix everything.
There's probably a lot of better ways to go about what they're doing. But I think the story's excuse for it is that like the main, like the organization behind the Earth Children, which is literally called the Waste, they are like not, most of them are not interested in like saving the mom just because it's like, well, she did her mission already. She basically just needs to like, all Earth Children basically just die off after, well, most of them. So now they're not interested in spending the resources to find him. So I think that's the excuse of why they can't find better solutions than use the baby to save the mom using their telekinetic abilities. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, guys, that it would be great if Earthchild was gotten rid of. But the weird thing is that series is trying to prolong itself more
Oh my
than
god.
Ashimon. And Earthchild is getting a color page, if I remember correctly.
Oh my word. Oh my word. Oh my word.
Next week we have Witch Watch cover page, and I believe an Earthchild color page.
All right. Well, I don't know. Isn't no, I don't know. Wasn't it said that next week it's gonna be Witch Watch that's getting the lead color page?
Yeah, Witch Watch is the lead color page, but Earthchild is getting a color page.
Okay.
Which again, to be fair, I think it's just like Akane getting that second 12 color page. I'm nothing special, but I guess it's has enough popularity that it's getting it. I don't know. I'm still hoping that series dies because like nobody has like good things to say about. Well, most people don't have good things. I should say.
No.
Still a few fans out there.
Yeah.
Or
So, uh, yeah.
yeah,
Which
if
one?
Her Child survives, you guys should quit Jump and talk about magazine. I think in reference to Weekly Shonen magazine. We
Oh,
definitely need to read more weekly magazines. Luke's still catching up on Eden Zero, though.
yeah. I'm still catching up on Eden Zero. Like uh, I took a break. I took a break. But so I still have yet to read the Sun Jewel arc.
Yeah, and that's fine.
And also,
So
I was just looking on the Twitter handle for Shonen Jump News Unofficial to find out if it was Witch Watch, and I'm just got to the Dot Stone because actually might as well just quickly mention this. Yeah, the announcement was the Dot Stone stage show. That was the big announcement.
yeah, which Boichi and Inagaki also tweeted about. I guess it's just what the series, or
Yeah,
I guess it's just a popular thing in Japan to get a stage play because
I'm just curious how
had it.
I'm just
And
curious how they're going to do Suika in the stage play.
why Suika specifically?
Because she's obviously going to be in her child form, so like it'll be curious to see who they cast as Suika in the stage play.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but also as well, I'm just looking at the figurines that are on there, and the Kawaku and Suika one. I want them right now.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
are great.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess that was our tangent. Neither Yosakura family stage play and an anime announcement. Apparently, the anime announcement is coming for Mission Yosakura, but that's just a rumor I heard. But yeah, we've only got like 2 series left, which are Witch Watch and Mission Yosakura.
Yep.
So
I think we can save Yosakura for last.
yeah. Because Witch Watch, it's a basic one, but an enjoyable one because, oh my god, I can relate to what happens in this chapter.
Oh, okay. That'll be fun to talk about. You can start off with it. I need to step out for a quick second, so go ahead.
Okay. All right. Just gonna comment on Sky said's comment here. There's always rumors. Yes, there is, and apparently that was a rumor. Tokyo Aliens got an anime, which was nice. I don't know what that's all about, but I think you retweeted about that. Sky said, but yeah, Witch Watch. So basically, we start off the chapter with them all discovering a box, as you do. Funny, it's not blue because then we could have done the blue box joke then. But they're like, oh, what is this? And Mori found it when he was cleaning out the storage, and it's a box full of his old elementary school projects and stuff, drawings, calligraphy. He practiced haiku, haku, and art prints, and they're all like, "Wow, he kept all of these." And Kengo was like, "Oh, what is this one?" Mori gets like really embarrassed by it, and they're like, "Oh, what is this? Is it something naughty? A crappy manga you drew as a little kid?" And Nico's comment is very much Nico's comment, a love letter. And they're like, "Oh, come on, what are you hiding? What are you hiding it for?" And it turns out it is a manga. It's a crappy manga you drew as a kid, and yes, I can relate. I can relate to this a lot because when I was younger, I used to I didn't do the drawing, but I used to write a lot of film scripts when I was younger, which were pretty crap myself. If I do say so myself, I admit that they were absolutely pathetic because most of them were just basic knockoffs of popular products. Like there was going off on a tangent here about this because there was a script I wrote that wasn't Doctor Who but was Professor Who. So I remember just finding that the other day and just reading it. I was like, Oh my god, this is so embarrassing. I can I cannot believe it that I even created this. So it's somewhere in my room, but it's locked away for safekeeping because no one should ever have to witness that. I made a couple of short films, and they would tell, yeah, and as well, I did make a short film one year with people who were not actors, and it shows. So that film is sort of in a storage space for safekeeping, never to see the light of day myself. So yeah, it's the chapter where where I think we all have those moments where we're like, yeah, we're finding our stuff that we did as a kid, and it was pretty crap as well. Hopefully I've gotten a lot better over the years. So I'm hoping that.
Yep, I'm back. And
All
yeah,
right.
I also remember writing stories as a kid and finding them again. And I'm like, how did I think any of this made sense?
Yes. Yeah. There was one that I made which was like supposed to be it was a rip off of the Saw films. It was an
Um,
absolute rip off of the Saw films.
I mean, yeah, but to be fair, as a kid, you don't have too many inspirations other than what you've seen.
Yeah, yeah, I think that my most embarrassing moment about it was when I showed it to one of my teachers, and they were nice enough not to say it was rubbish, but then I think about, why did I do that? Why did I think that was such a good idea?
Especially nowadays, the teacher would be like, I need to have a talk with your parents about what they're letting you watch.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't the Saw thing, the Saw parody. It was the Doctor Who thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I was just like, why did I show him that? What I think about that now, thinking about this chapter.
Yeah, and I think that's another fun thing with Witch Watch. I mean, Shonen and Chill brought up how they found relatable moments. Blue Box, I really don't, but Witch Watch, I could definitely feel those moments.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, continuing on, Maru is like, okay, I admit there was a time I was completely absorbed in manga. 10 pages a chapter, 72 chapters in all, never showed anyone. And Miru was like, oh, talk about dedication, and they're like, and he's like, oh, you didn't actually read through it. And the series that Maru came up with was Warrior Soldier Battle Fighters.
and they're like, "Geez, is this a battle manga? I can't tell."
Yeah. So we have so we basically have um a standard female protagonist, one with Keigo's hair, another with spiky hair, because why not? And of course you have to have the guy with the eye patch for some reason.
Yep, and I also like how, in like typical Japan fashion, some of these guys are just named after random English words. Like one of them's called attack, and one of them's
Yeah,
called duel. And I'm like, because English and Japanese, they can just use like words as names and think it's okay.
yeah.
Sky's the only relatable thing in Blue Box, the sincerity of the relationship and feelings of the character. Actual circumstance events aren't relatable at all. Yep, I think that's fair. I mean, in terms of the feelings of the characters, that kind of depends which ones we're talking about. But sure, the sincerity, I can get behind you on that one.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. But what I love most about this is the fact that despite Maru's attempts to get people to stop it, they're actually getting into it. And he's like, "How much are you going to get into this?" And they're trying to tell him like it's not half bad. And throughout this chapter, I was thinking like, okay, when is the manga student going to show up? When is the teacher going to show up?
oh, that is a good point. Maybe Moy and her will have like a moment where it's like, oh, I used to draw manga, and then they're gonna bond over that. Like maybe that's how
Oh,
everything will tie in.
yeah, yeah. And then she's like, "Can I write a manga about you guys?" And
And
then
then that'll be the final like drop where it's like Witch Watch was the story about the story of how it became a story.
yes, but Mar- uh, Mario's going like, "Oh, I love the manga world so much that I would love that I wanted to live in it." And of course, Nico has a spell to make that happen. But we
Yeah, and
meet,
then everybody is, and then literally everyone's just like, "That's a great idea. I want to
no,
go in."
no,
And it's just like, and then literally as she's casting the spell, Moi's like, "Wait, are we sure this is safe?" It's like, "No, we're not."
no. And the spell was just called grab pick.
Yep. Like Nico, like the author was just like, I don't even, it can just be a word. That's barely a word. And then Muto Ashiguri in Witch Watch. I'm not sure who that is.
That is that is the in Bakugo, not Bakugo, in Bakumon, the one from the Office of Death Note that created the manga about making manga. That was the artist and writer duo's like pen name that they used.
Oh, cool. Got it. That's
Yeah,
interesting. And then, yeah, the Nico's spell happens, and all the characters turn into badly drawn manga characters effectively. And at first, it's like we're inside the manga world. It's the best spell ever. And then Kara, after being gone for a while, shows up, and she's like, "Hey, anybody home?" I was in the area, so I thought I'd drop by. And I was at first I was thinking, okay, so she's just gonna find an empty house or something, right? And they're just gonna be all
oh,
trapped in the manga. But instead, we see them just as manga characters living in
yeah.
their house.
Although one thing I've got to say is that I'm surprised they haven't brought up yet. Like, why? I'm surprised that in the manga world that I haven't brought this up. Why is it that in every manga everyone leaves their front door unlocked?
Oh yeah, that is. I didn't even think about that, but that
Because
is a
you know, because that is a legitimate point. It's like every
yeah. I
single
mean, Nico's
manga,
literally having her life in danger. This is a very bad idea.
yeah, like everyone, like it, not just in this series, but like in any other series, it's like the front door always seems to be unlocked for some reason.
Yeah, this was like the I don't know what Japan is like, but I think America like used to be like this back in several decades ago. People just leave their doors open, but times are much different now,
Yeah,
even in Japan, I'm sure.
yeah,
Anyway, so then Kara's just freaking out like a normal person.
yeah.
And Nico's like, "Don't worry, I cast a spell on everyone." She's like, "Duh, of course you did. I don't need this explained." And then she's like, "You all look like bad children's drawings." And Moy's like, "Who are you calling a bad drawing? I'll smack you." And even the dialogue is now childish.
Yeah, so basically, it turns out that not only did Nico cast a spell to turn them into the manga characters, but they sound like the manga characters now.
Yep. And basically, Keiko explains the situation. Kara's still barely following. And Kara, and then she says, "You guys get up into the craziest stuff. Seriously, this is just
Finally,
really weird." Yeah, she
finally,
went up and
somebody bringing up the obvious. Why is it that whenever something crazy happens, it's always you guys?
yep. That's basically like every manga. How come every time something bad happens, you guys are at the center of it? And anyway, so the weird thing is, and I'm actually kind of glad they brought this out. It kind of reminds me of the Minecraft chapter, but like she even sees what they look like from a three-dimensional perspective, and she just sees their side profiles from a different angle, and it's just kind of messing with her brain. It would probably mess me up too if I saw a bunch of like 2D living people of my friends, and then have to be like, "Oh my god, I don't know what's going on."
Yeah.
And
Um,
then it's also funny they show the blushes on the cheek, and it's like, "Hey, they're pointing out of my silhouette," and I'm like, "Okay, so this whole chapter is just gonna be making fun of manga drawings."
yeah, it is. Like, Kay goes like, my hands are drawn so bad I can't pick anything up.
Yep, and that's true. Hands are hard to draw. I've heard from artists. Uh, Anyway, then at some point she asks an important question: "Where's Where's Khan? I don't see him anywhere. He's like, over here. And then we see like Khan looking in a wooden block pattern saying, how come I'm the only one stuck in a block print style? I look like a wood block print carved by an elementary school kid. And my first thought to that is, an elementary school kid can carve that? That's impressive.
I know, but it looks more like a Junta Ito uh, like drawing. I
Yeah,
think
actually,
what
that's
I think that's what he was going for here.
probably. Anyway, so then we see him still getting mad, saying, "Why do I got to be like this when the rest of you guys look like manga? I'm stuck with all the sharp edges and intense expressions." And then Carl's like, "Okay, this is scary. I don't like this." And then the explanation is apparently Nico is like casting a spell, but Khan was close to the wood block print that Moy made as a kid. And he says, my angry friend piece was good enough to win first place in the contest. Even the carvings are powerful. And Khan's just like, how are you praising yourself right now? But the good news is apparently Khan is at least is the only one talking like a normal human being. So
Yeah, at least that's good.
and in typical Witch Watch fashion, this is where something goes completely wrong because the piece of paper she used to cast the spell got blown away by the wind because they just leave stuff open in this house.
Yes, for some reason.
Mm-hmm. And then Nico's like, I can't fix the spell without the page. And the characters are like, oh no, this is bad. What do we do? Let's think of a plan. And Carl's like, I'm reading a gag manga with no sense of urgency whatsoever. And I'm like, same, girl, same.
Like it's that me and Roboco pretty much in a nutshell.
I mean, kind of. I think there's like I think they also make self-aware jokes, but theirs are more referential humor. Like Roboco, for example, this week was about, and I guess this is the Roboco review. The main character or the characters were getting their test scores back, and interestingly, like most of the main cast is actually like A students, except for our main character and one of his friends who are like really stupid, and they are just like don't study that much, and so they failed like most of their tests except the main character did good on his Japanese history test. I think because of an elusive samurai like story. Um, and he also knows his science pretty well because the last panel was him explaining, oh, well, in Dr. Stone, chapter this,
Oh my.
it's chemical.
Okay.
So I know how this works.
Okay, I've got to read that chapter. Just I've got to read that chapter, just that one chapter, and then go back and read the entire series once I'm caught up on High School Family.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not going to be telling you it's the best thing ever, but because Witch Watch is definitely the best gag.
Yeah,
And after
definitely.
that, it's between Roboco and High School, but I think Roboco has higher peaks. That's tough. It's between those two.
Yeah, unless it's
But I
super
can just send you
iPad.
the. Yeah, I'll just put in the Dr. Stone chat the Dr. Stone
Okay.
reference.
Okay,
You can
and I
look
was
at
just
it
gonna
later.
say, you say me and Robocar has better high peaks than High School Family, unless you're Super Eye Patch Wolf.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I guess he did like him more, which is fine. I think even Skyzet is a huge fan of High School Family. So it just depends on your taste. I think what High School Family does best is almost more the non-comedy parts of the story when they're actually focusing on like the slice of life stuff with the family. But that's a neither here nor there. I think
Okay,
Roboco's better with like the comedy, at least for me. But even then,
okay,
it's not that great most of the time.
all right, fair enough.
Anyway,
So
going back to Witch
yeah,
Watch.
going back to Witch Watch. So they call this emergency deploy scramble. I think you have to have. I think now they'll have to install a button for that. Like
Yep.
emergency deploy scramble.
I love how they're just drawn here, like trying to go into action, like Nico on a broom, trying to
Yes.
get all serious. And then like Khan or Keiko's eyes just not being visible. Oh man, it's just adorable.
And then Miru trying to look all serious about it. He looks like an inflated marshmallow.
Yep. And then basically, Kara's telling him, "Don't go out in public looking like that." And then Khan's in the back looking horrifying. Which, by the way, Skies, just to point out your comment, yeah, I didn't do wood carving myself, but I would believe that this wood carving is probably better than what you did, just because it's very detailed. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I think the joke there is that Moy is actually like very talented at a lot of things, and so even when he's a kid, he was good at drawing
Yeah.
and slash doing manga stuff. Anyway, so then Kara's just like out here saying it's like you're making me look like a magician with a bunch of unruly summons. I'm not sure if that's referencing, but it's still pretty funny.
Yeah.
Um, and then literally some people are coming and they're trying to hide and they're not sure what to do. But then the next page, we see them posing as wall arts,
As Warlock. Yeah. And Nico's just giving like the winky face.
like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but childish drawn.
Oh my god. I seriously want that type of like Nemu in. I'm going to say get Nemu in the house so that we can have a Sabrina the Teenage Witch reference.
Yeah, it's kind of just like waiting for that. Anyway, so then they keep looking for the page, and then I think this is one of my favorite sequences
Oh
in the
yeah,
manga.
definitely.
Keiko's just like, "Leave it to me, guys," and then has like a Power Ranger transformation sequence, but in
Just
like chip, like childish form, and he
yeah.
goes, "Rah, I'm Wolf."
And even as Wolf, it's as they say, okay, now that's just too stinking cute.
Yep, and then Wolf picks up on the scent, up on like a roof, where they see like the page pressed up against it, and then Kara notices something on the window. Apparently, someone's getting robbed, just
What a
straight up.
coincidence!
And then everyone's like, "A bad guy, let's go!" And then they have a Power Ranger sequence where they all combined bodies for a combo attack. Oh man! And yes, guys, the wall paint was hilarious. And
And
then
the
the
comp,
Southern Cross attack was basically them just jumping on top of each other. I don't understand how this is a combo. Moy just punches a window,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, and Nico's not involved in the combo attack. She's just there, like I'm getting the page.
And I actually thought that Nico would turn him back before they fought, and that's how they would win. But instead, Moy just punches him with his "I'm gonna smack you" attack, and it's like a super effective. Shoots
But
him out the window.
it's like Baku.
I think it's like Bakum. There's like an M
Yeah,
at the end.
yeah.
But
So
then, yeah, so then they get turned back afterwards. And Nico's like, "Oh, sorry about that, guys. I should really stop casting these spells like random."
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Stop thinking that these spells are a good idea, Nico. They never, ever, ever, ever are. Ever.
at some point, I need one of the characters to just point this out. Just like, okay, Nika, you can't just do this. Anyway, so then Mahiru's like, "We defeated the bad guy, so all's well that ends well." And then we get a touching moment with Moy saying, "I remember why I got into drawing manga. When I was a kid, I didn't have any friends." And then Nico's just there, like, "Wait a minute, so what was I?" Anyway, so then Moy keeps talking. "I want to work together with friends to defeat bad guys. And now I'm able to use the attack that was only in my imagination." So
Yeah.
that was a
That,
sweet moment. And
as
then
and something else that I can relate to because when I was a kid, I didn't really have any friends myself because of my autism. But so just creating stories but helped me to be like, oh, okay, I can escape into my own world.
yep.
Yeah. That's all I wanted to say are my thoughts on that moment. So yeah, we have everyone just being happy for Moe, and they're like, okay, now let's think of some more ultra moves. And they're like, why do we need these for? I want it to be part of the combo attack. Let's add my spell to it. No, let's not add the spell to it. That's not something anyone wants. And then
And
everyone
and then basically Kara's like, "Let's do normal high school stuff next time." And
yeah.
then at the very end, we all forget that Khan is still stuck as a drawing.
Yes.
Is because for those who don't remember, he got transformed with a different page, so the spell didn't work on him. And yep, last page is just this horrific image of Khan as a wooden block art. Man, it's funny because in a weird way, this chapter was hilarious, slightly touching at the end, but it's mostly just Shinohara just flexing his art skills. Like, look, guys, I can impose so many different styles in one manga. So yeah, go ahead, Shinohara, you can flex your skills.
Yeah, you can flex yourself all you want. It's still very funny. One of the funniest series in Jump at the moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was Witch Watch, I think, unless you had anything else.
I had nothing else to say, so I guess we can move on to talking about Mission Yozakura family.
Okay. Just going to make it out of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, this was my chapter of the week, but even then, I still had a few issues with it that I want
Oh
to go.
yeah. I feel like we could go over some points. When I first saw the title, "We're Home," I was like, "Oh my god, are we really going back to the status quo here?" But no.
Yeah, I was also worried about that, and SkyZ agrees with us. Chapter of the week right here.
Yeah.
But yeah, the color page is also just God. This might be one of my favorites. It's
Oh
probably
yeah, definitely, definitely.
I
Just
love the way rain just is on the glass, and just the way this is so accurately drawn is beautiful.
yeah, and it's getting another color page next week as well.
Yeah, so I mean, Yozakura is getting pushed a lot by Jump. It seems to be a very important series in the magazine.
Yeah,
So
it's
if
it
someone is
turns.
evaluating the state of a magazine, they should probably be talking about this series.
Yeah, I was about to say that as well. You've obviously seen what people have been saying
I have.
uh, about his opinion. Like it's a mainstay in the magazine. So let's just talk. Even if you don't like the series, just at least say I'm not a fan of the series, but it seems that Jump is really pushing it with the color pages. So hope it does well for people who enjoy it. That's all you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I still think people, after watching the video myself, were exaggerating a little bit because he did bring them up. He just didn't say anything in relation to the series, which I still
Yeah,
think is a bit of a disservice. But it's not like he doesn't acknowledge that they're in the magazine. But I don't think he understands the importance of them. But that's a separate.
yeah. I think he doesn't understand the importance of color pages, how important they are.
Well, yeah, that and also that aside, Yozakura is like looking to be very soon like one of the oldest series in the magazine with
Yeah,
Black Clover and its final arc,
yeah,
MHA ending, Jujutsu Kaisen having like 2 years or something left. So it's like Yozakura is going to be like one of like the bigger series, action series in the magazine. I mean,
yeah.
Sakamoto Days is already surpassing it in sales, admittedly, but
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. But I feel like Yozakura, they'll want to keep it around for probably as long as MHA and Black Clover.
I mean, that would be nice. I don't know if the author wants to go that
Yeah,
long.
I don't know if the author wants to, but I feel like they really will like try and be like, we need you to stay. We need you to stay. And maybe he'll come with a compromise. Maybe he'll be like, okay, I'll stay if you let me have breaks.
Yeah, that would be nice. I mean, that's what's happened with the Akashi Triangle. And Sky said, yeah, if you make your own State of Jump video, I'd be interested to see that. I know you collect a lot of sales numbers, so you have a lot of data to work with. And that would be interesting for us to watch at some point. And then,
Yeah,
of course, if you ever want our inputs on anything, you're more than
yeah,
welcome to ask us.
yeah. So anyway, I guess we'll just start talking about the chapter now. So picking up from the ending of the last chapter, we have Momo clapping at his family and saying, "I believed in you. I knew you'd all be able to get through this." And Musumi's just confused by this. Like, what are you doing here? And Momo can finally say this. We're home. Father and mother are home, and possibly one of the most disturbing things I think I've seen. You see, this is what I feel like it's my chapter of the week because the author was brave enough to do something like this. say we're home, father and mother are home, and basically just show the heart of Ray,
Yeah, a beating heart.
the beating
And
heart of Ray.
we're watching him like with tears, and God, the art is so beautiful but creepy. That's like
Creepy.
pretty much the summary of this chapter.
Yeah,
Beautiful
like
art, creepy.
creepy. So Momo, so everyone, even Koichiro is like that face from Koichiro is just like the face of like, what have you done? Like
Hmm.
that is bad when someone like Koichiro is physically sick to his stomach.
But also, to be fair, that's his mom. That's
Yeah,
actually his mom and his dad. So,
yeah,
uh, and then Momo basically explains to us like effectively what he's been doing. And I do like these chapters where eventually we just like I don't think info dumps in a weird way. Jujutsu Kaisen had a huge info dump which people didn't like, but I don't mind info dumps when they're done like this, where it's like okay, time to just unveil a bunch of secrets at once. Because Momo says I recovered her body basically when they went to go fight Don Popo, and then uh, he got her heart and restored its strength little by little, and says it's been a long time, but now I have the heart of the head of the Yozakura family. I'm going to awaken her, and I'm. This is when he says I'm going to resurrect your mom and put our family together.
yeah.
And like everyone again is like just freaking out over this,
Yeah, and I've
and
just got to
it's kind of hilarious because we're seeing the cute pictures of them as a family alongside all this very disturbing imagery.
yeah, and I've just got to point this out. I've just got to point this out that okay, slight spoiler for people who watch this who are interested in checking out Power Rangers Dino Fury, but it's basic. It's not as grotesque as this, but basically the main villain in Power Rangers Dino Fury does this. Like he uses the power that the Power Rangers are collecting to resurrect his comatose wife. So basically doing a similar thing here, which is leading me to believe that when Ray does get revived, she'll enjoy the power that she's gotten so much that she'll want to claim it all for herself, and she might actually become the main villain.
That would be an interesting twist. But continuing onwards, this is like part where one part of the thing I wanted to discuss where Momo says, "On that day, in my weakness, I offered up my wife and child to Subumi. Now a day has passed. I filled with regret from the decision. The only way you would all forgive me is ever to fix what I broke. So I continue to wait quietly for the opportunity to get our family back." Now, again, a lot of my issues with this chapter are potential issues that can just be fixed later down the line. So I don't want anyone to say these are big criticisms. But here, I'm hoping that this isn't the only thing we get about his conversation with Sabumi. Because it's like, what do you mean in your weakness you just gave up your wife and daughter? Like you talked to a tree for like a bit, and then we're like, yeah, okay, this sounds like a good idea. And then you're like, huh, maybe that wasn't a good idea. Like, I don't know. I need a little more than that from Momo, which we might
Yeah,
still get,
he
but
might.
it's
Yeah,
like,
because Momo is still a very mysterious character, so he's obviously hiding some things.
yeah, which that's what I need to know. And I'm hoping that this isn't all we're getting. And I'm a little bothered just by the way they presented, like, oh, it was a moment of weakness. Well, what was the weakness? What did she exploit? Anyway, but
Yeah,
like, hopefully we'll get that later. But then the next page, really good, because we see all these panels from previous chapters, basically explaining his plans bit by
yeah,
bit. I prepared the stage. Tayo acquired powers of a Yozakura, while Kawashita and the other heads got in who were in the way got eliminated, and the bonds between your siblings had strengthened. And this is kind of, I guess, feeds into my next issue,
yeah.
and this will come up a little bit later. But
Yeah, one thing I want to say quickly is as well, like, when are we gonna get the grandmother involved in this? Because she's still the eighth head of the Yozakura family.
that is true. We need to see that, and maybe it will play a part. Hopefully, um, and I'm thinking. Okay, actually, I think I'll talk about it on the next page. So I'll just keep
Yeah,
reading. That said, every time your lies are exposed to danger, it hurt me like I was being stabbed at the heart. but I would not allow myself to falter. After all, that's how it's supposed to be. Believing in one's children is what makes a good parent.
I've
And
just
I
got to
love
say,
how his mind is set is so twisted. He thinks he's being a good dad.
yeah, he thinks he's being a good parent by putting his kids through psychological and mental torment, mental torment. But God, that panel with him, like that is something.
Yeah, it's beautifully drawn. And then the next part is where another issue I want to get into. Now that Tsubumi has been unable to get her hands on Mutsumi and the heads have been eliminated, her life force continues to fade. So my thing here is now twice he said that the heads of the Yozakura have been eliminated, obviously except for the grandma and Mutsumi. But does that mean we have like full confirmation? You think that they are just gone?
I don't think they're gone. I think there's something else going on. There has to be something else going on.
Because again, if they are gone, that just seems like a waste of those characters. So I'm
Yeah,
really hoping this series did not just pull like a Demon Slayer
maybe
who moves on,
maybe
just killed off like a bunch of lower heads for no reason.
maybe here's what might happen is that if it turns out that Rei does become basically like Sabumi, she could potentially resurrect all the previous heads, including Sabumi herself.
Hmm, that would be interesting. I mean, that would be a good way to bring back the characters because, like, I'm hoping they aren't just gone from the story.
No,
We only
I'm
got
not
to learn
hoping.
about one or two of them, and they all had designs.
Yeah.
So
Um. So
So
yeah,
that was like another complaint I wanted to bring up. Again, if the story fixes that and says, "Oh, they're not actually dead," or brings them back, then that's fine.
yeah. Here's the thing, because it basically confirms here that might actually happen, because Momo says she doesn't even realize that the roots that she used to leech her own power from the other heads and people around her have been reconnected to my wife's Rin's heart. So yeah, the fact that the powers that she's been leeching has been reconnected to Rin, that basically means that Rin could potentially bring them back.
Hmm. Okay, I can be okay with that if that's what happens. But yeah, good spot.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then Momo says and also Sky said Momo's backstory is going to be so interesting and hype when we get there. Yep, I agree. High expectations for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
you were going to say something?
yeah, I was good. Well, it was on the next it was on the next bit where it's like where he says we're almost there, Rin. There's no one else who can get in our way. All that stuff. It's the fertilizer to make you blossom, and explain that Ray was completely drained of Simonia, and I couldn't let her end up like the other Eds. It's only a tiny amount, but every ordinary person has Simonia in their system. So pretty much confirming that everyone in the series is connected in some way to what's going on with the Yozakura family.
Yep.
So if
That's kind of it. Oh,
that basically means my theory might be correct, because of the whole poison thing being in the air around everyone.
yeah, because you did mention that people could potentially gain powers just from the environment, and it feels like this part of the story is kind of confirming that at least some bits of Somian, whatever, is just like diffusely in the environment, and people take it in. So yeah, that is definitely help support your theory. Sure.
So that begs the question of like, would people be able to artificially get the blooming den?
Potentially. I mean, that is what Kawashita was trying to do. Remember?
Yeah.
I mean, that
Yeah.
was literally what he was trying to do. So then Momo says, I feel no regret about it. Each time Ray's heartbeats get stronger, my goal becomes clear. Our happily family circle. And oh my God, like just that family dinner table on top of a pile of corpses.
Oh yeah, that is one of the sickest images of like Momo. You are one sick, twisted individual.
Mm-hmm. Like, man. And then he says, only a little more, some tens or hundreds of thousands of people. When that day comes, I hope you'll greet us with a hearty welcome home. It's like, oh my God, that is like so messed up that even Mutsumi is like, what are you saying, father? In order to
Yeah.
bring mom back to life, you involved us and even people have nothing to do with us for such a dreadful purpose. And Momo's like, "Don't look at me like that, Mutsumi."
Oh my god, that image of Momo, that is creepy.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's basically like Joker levels of now smile effectively.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh, yeah, and basically um doing giving Mutsumi some PTSD here.
yep, major trauma right there. Basically, Momo's just justifying, oh, we can sacrifice people for our family, and your anger will go away in time. And don't worry, the peaceful life you wanted is right around the corner. And then Futaba is just like rushing in for an attack, just straight up right at her dad. And she's just screaming at their father, like, "You destroyed our family. Now you want to bring us back together again. Stop using convenient, insinuating words to try and manipulate us. And do you have any idea how much she suffered?" And then uh, Momo goes, "Oh, I know. A child's pain is her parents' pain. I will endure it for the sake of everyone's future."
Yeah.
And I love
And
how he's just continuously crying as he's breaking Futaba's wrist.
yes, I was like, what the hell, man?
It's basically saying, "I feel your pain as I am breaking your wrist." And I'm
Oh
just
my
like, my God, that is like, this is like so many levels of psychotic.
yeah,
Uh,
it's like
and since
this.
Subumi seems to be dying off, based on what we saw on page uh, 10, um,
Yeah.
this feels like we're setting up Momo to be like the next big antagonist of
Yeah.
the
And
story.
he certainly made it so like now, like you don't just go and break Futaba's arm.
And interesting, he's about to unleash another attack. And I love how he says, "You want to be reminded how strong your father is." And I'm like, you are talking to your daughter here. Are
Yeah.
you not at all like understanding what you just said?
Yeah.
Koichiro is just like trying to protect his sister, of course. In that
So
moment.
I love that Kiricho is the one to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially as he's expressionless on that page using his spider web.
Hmm.
Um, and then, yes, guys, that Momo is genuinely terrifying. He's like probably one of the scariest villains right now.
Yeah, definitely. I might just potentially just use that image of Momo as the thumbnail for the review. Just
Yeah,
the
people are
Joker,
gonna click on that.
just the Joker face and being like, Momo is terrifying.
Yeah, that's fair. And then basically after rescuing Futaba, Momo's like, "You chipped my hat again." And then Mutsumi's just frozen in fear because, of course, she is and can't find anything to say. And then we see at the last page, Tai is stepping up. And so I guess he's going to start giving a huge speech in the following chapter.
I feel like what Tayu is going to say is it's going to be related to the fact that I came in as an outsider, Momo, but this family has become more of a family to me throughout the possibly year that he's been with them at this point. And I'm not going to let you take it away like I lost my own family, and that is probably where Mo is going to be like, "Oh, Tayo, do you really want to know the truth about what happened that day?" Because
Oh,
I feel like
I didn't think of that.
Momo has to be involved at this point with what happened with Tayo's parents, because he does say that this was whole planned. So he probably planned for Tayo to marry into the family so that he can get the power of the Yosakura.
That would be something because we still need to get into that at some point. And here's the thing, I also wanted to say with Momo, the father being like the next big antagonist. If it was any other series, I would think, oh man, this looks like we're nearing endgame. But honestly, even after dealing with the dad, I still feel like there's so much more the series can do
Yeah,
after that.
there is so much more. There is so much more because we could have like 20 chapters of slice of life as the author thinks of the next big step. That's the beauty of Mission Yotsuura family.
Yep, and like we said, I still think Kai is suspicious. And Koichiro mentioned, I think it was last chapter, or maybe it was the chapter before. I'm losing track. Mentioned there's something out there trying to destroy everything Yozakura, and I
Yeah,
don't
there
think
is.
that's Momo because he is a
I
Yozakura.
I
So
don't
that's
think
probably
it is. No.
another the next threat after Momo. So it's
Yeah,
exciting that there's so much going on in this series right now. Although I will say, guys, I think you're exaggerating a bit if you're saying Momo is better than Aizen.
yeah. I
Far.
feel like Momo's got to do a lot more to prove that to make that assumption. But in terms of genuinely effective antagonists, he's probably up there at the moment.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to rank because we just got this chapter and it feels very fresh. But I can definitely see him going up among my favorites, potentially depending on what they do with him.
Yeah, definitely. Agenda better
Agenda
than
better
facts.
than facts. Okay, that's
O-
fair. That is fair.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. So, yeah, wow, that was a chapter and a half.
So I think that's it for it, unless you have anything else.
No, I really don't have anything else to say. I think I do need a drink after going through that chapter again. I'll need another drink before doing the review.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
As long as you're not drinking during the review.
No, no, I won't be like drinking like alcohol. It'll probably just be a cup of tea.
Oh, okay, fair. Yeah, because I don't think you drink alcohol either, right?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Yeah,
No, I don't.
I'm not
Um,
a fan myself.
but
Anyway, so I think that's it. Thank you for everyone who was here commenting and sharing feedback. Skaza, thank you for sticking through us to the end.
yeah, and also as well, if something comes up and we have to push the next stream back, we'll let you guys know. But until then, we will see you later.